Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Daronte officially hired. My tongue is a little red because I'm drinking red punch. I don't want you guys to be freaked out. But look, I am in a great mood because I am bumped up after today's press conferences, okay? Look, we got Ed O excited about our hires, Blake Baker, Daronte Jones, Andre Carter, Austin Thomas. It is a new era in LSU football. And as Andres points out, as Jay Morsay points out, as a lot of you point out, Lewis is on the road tonight, our resident truck driver. Lewis, please drive safe. I know you're listening on one of those really cool, like, truck driver Bluetooth. You know, like the truck drivers, they have those very fancy Bluetooth earpieces. And Lewis is...
I'm super envious.
My girlfriend's right here, and she will tell you this. I have always had a fascination with truck drivers. One of my best friends is a truck driver. And look, you guys have some of the most difficult jobs in our country. We could not survive without truck drivers. So, Lewis, please drive safely. But look, there's so much for us to talk about. Those press conferences. I released a video sharing my only concern about the press conference, which is, look at that. Lewis right on cue. Look, Bluetooth through the truck driver speakers, 100 watts.
Look at that. That goes perfect.
And here's the thing, and Kane points this out, and I do want to lead today with this because something very fascinating Shea Dixon wrote about earlier today regarding Logan Diggs in the early signing period. I do want to start with this, though.
Oh, hey, Eric.
The bottom line is that today's press conference was something I didn't expect. I did not expect LSU to announce what their base defense is going to be. So I did a video about that. Some of you watched that video before you came to this live stream tonight. I couldn't release the video tomorrow because we have signing day stuff we're going to do, but I do want to include this. I do not believe that a 4-3 cannot work. A 4-3 can work. Any defense can work if you have the right personnel. All of those things could be true. But the basis of modern football is the pass. It used to not be that way. It used to be all about defending the run. We got to stop the run. That's what every coach would tell you if you played football. You got to stop the run. That is the first thing you got to do. But the opposite is true now. You've got to stop the pass first. You do. That's the first thing you got to do. And then you got to stop the run. So as always, if you want to see Bug tonight, we got to get $10 in super chat. You get a preview of Bug right here.
Get that back.
So Debbie and everyone, look, if you want to see Bug, she'll make her appearance no matter if we get any super chats or not. But the sooner we get to $10, the sooner you get to see your Bug. She's getting ready to eat some dinner. We had to get her situated. She's on some new dinner. So go on ahead, hit the thumbs up button like Debbie said, and let's have a fun live stream. Spencer points out, shout out to Spencer. Hey, everyone, welcome Spencer. He's new to the channel.
Hey, Spencer.
What's up, Spence? CZ Beasley. CZ always says biscuit. That is always his first comment, and I just freaking love that. Just biscuit. Heroes for sale. Are you kidding me? Heroes for sale. My favorite freaking show. Welcome, Christopher. Everyone welcome Heroes for Sale. He's new to the channel. He is not an LSU fan, but he is my card collecting mentor. So everyone welcome Heroes for Sale. After this live stream, go check out some of his content if you are a card collector. So, look, some of you want to talk about the NCAA football game. And a lot of you were fired up when Joe Burrow tweeted out earlier today. Okay? Look, Joe Burrow, I'm not going to buy the game if Joe Burrow's not on the cover. I'm not going to buy the game. And I'm still pissed off because I mistakenly said shoelace for a game wore number 98. It was a different Michigan quarterback. But I was just excited to say that stupid fact that Michigan had a quarterback that wore number 98. And I know Spencer is a jersey number guy too. The fantasy football god, welcome. So, look, I'm excited about the new NCAA game. I'm still a little skeptical about the details. But honestly, you could just pop in the 2014 game and it'd just be fine. Let's go to Austin here. Friday, what's up? Playing a 4-2-5 with one linebacker and another safety linebacker hybrid seems like a viable option. You know what? I agree with you, Spencer. And Austin, it was Devin Gardner that wore number 98. I was just excited to share the fact that Michigan did something bold. But anyway, the point remains the same. I don't mind running a 4-man front. I don't. Michael, he did the $15 super chat. So guess what? We're going to go straight to Michael's comment. As a lot of you know, if you super chat, you control the live stream. So we go to Michael. Who is this new quarterback recruit from California? The QB room is going to be crowded the next few years. So let's talk about this. Cole, I don't know a whole lot about him. And you go look at his 247 profile, and it's mostly schools in the Ivy League that have offered him. No offense to the Ivy League, but, it's kind of weird. As you pointed out, Michael, quarterback is a loaded position right now at LSU. So let me go make sure I get this kid's Cole Lorde's offer sheet correct. I don't want to say schools that have offered Cole Lorde. So Cole Lorde was going to walk on to LSU, but then he got an offer. And the schools that have offered him up to this point is Brown, Columbia, Florida Atlantic, Georgetown College, and Holy Cross. So it's kind of a weird, offer, right? That Cole Lorde gets an offer just a few hours before signing day. Now, what does that tell us about the rest of the class? Well, what that tells me is that LSU doesn't feel comfortable, or they don't feel confident that they're going to land anyone new. In other words, I don't think LSU feels as if they're going to get Raesjon Davis. And I think LSU is a little skeptical about Bryant Thomas Jr., or they know something that we don't know. So, I was going to save Cole Lorde for a little bit later, but Michael super chats. I watched some of his stuff yesterday. As Jay Morsay points out, he looks pretty good. He looks to be a pro-style quarterback, not a dynamic runner, but he looks decent athletically. Is Cole Lorde a future starting quarterback at LSU? No, he's not. But normally LSU does bring in a smart backup who does all the play signaling, and he does provide depth at that position. Now, I know a lot of you are probably speculating, well, does LSU know something about potentially a quarterback transferring, and that's why they're offering him? I don't know. Ed Orgeron knows way more about football and his team situation than I do. Okay? But I have never thought in my wildest dreams, as Overtime points out, that LSU has a loaded quarterback room. Okay? So look, we'll see what happens. Now, some of you are still talking about the defense and saying, well, we're going to be multiple on defense. Sounded pretty explicit to me that they were going to be multiple on defense, but it's going to be a base 4-3. And look, I was just earlier in my video pointing out my skepticism of the 4-3 defense, because the 1 year we switched back to it, we're historically bad. The worst defense I've ever seen at LSU was last year. So we say hi to Blake. We say hi to Eric. Let's see. We say hi to Michael. What's up, Michael? What's up? All right. Will you give me a bottle of water? Please.
Thank you very much.
I said, I was letting you finish that gulp. You had a big gulp going. She took a sip. She took half of my drink just then with that gulp. PLG, welcome.
I did not take half your drink.
Kyle, you did not miss anything. So Spencer, I don't like to talk about myself. I like to talk about LSU football because that's what everyone is here. How did I get into this, though? I will answer this really quickly, even though it is still Michael's super chat time. Look, I got into this my sophomore year of college at LSU. Actually, my freshman year of college at LSU, and I've been in it ever since. So there you go. What's up, Frank?
And you are so good.
I know, Andres. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I won't say that out loud, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't look at Andres' comment. They always ask for a little sip or bite, and then they end up slurping half of it. She legit just slurped half of my drink.
No, I did not.
And this is just tea and punch.
It's not.
It's punch. It's called punch. So Mr. Mickey wants to talk about Bryant Thomas. I'm hearing now that Bryant Thomas Jr. may or may not sign at all. If I was Bryant Thomas Jr. and I was a 4-star wide receiver and I lived in the state of Louisiana, okay? I know, Kane, you got to be careful, right? He may or may not sign tomorrow. You got to be really careful with this because obviously, I'm fine with whoever signs whenever. But it's just a speculation that's out there. But anyway, Bryant Thomas Jr. If I was a kid, a 4-star wide receiver from Louisiana, and I knew that past 4-star wide receivers from Louisiana, like Odell Beckham, like Jamar Chase, were top 15 draft picks. Okay. I just came around to the... But anyway, I think I know what you were trying to say, Kane. What's up, Chris? You did not miss anything. But anyway, if you're a 4-star wide receiver and you're in the state of Louisiana, I want to go to LSU. Okay? And this is what we were talking about with brands. All right? LSU's brand is what? What position is LSU's brand? Well, it's defensive back. If you're a defensive back, it doesn't matter if you're from Louisiana or if you're from Alaska. You want to play at LSU. Go look at every defensive back that has ever gotten an offer from LSU. They always say that's their dream offer. They always say that is their dream offer. Every single one. You want to know why? Because they look at clips of Tyrann Mathieu on YouTube. I couldn't tell you how many defensive backs, when I was covering high school football, would say that they all looked up to Tyrann Mathieu. And that was in Arkansas. It was in Texas. Not even from Louisiana. So Louisiana is a dream offer for every defensive back that's out there. But what is LSU's second biggest brand position? Well, it's probably wide receiver. On offense, it's probably wide receiver. If you look at the NFL success, if you look at the college success, we've had a lot of great running backs. We've had a few great offensive linemen, not a whole lot of great tight ends, and 1-ish, 2-ish, 3-ish quarterbacks. But wide receiver is the brand. It's a big brand. Now, obviously, nothing's ever really going to touch LSU's defensive back success in the NFL, but wide receiver is a brand. So Bryant Thomas Jr., sees that 3 wide receivers from Louisiana has already committed and signed, and one from Mississippi who said LSU was his dream school. In fact, he committed way longer than everyone, right? But even then, if I was Bryant Thomas Jr., I would say, look, LSU's not only put all these wide receivers in the NFL, they have put backup wide receivers into the NFL, right? Russell Gage is a perfect example. Russell Gage was a backup wide receiver and a special teamer. Same thing is true for another Russell Shepard. Played in the NFL a long time. And honestly, I think Raesjon McMath will as well. So even LSU's backup wide receivers tend to do better in the NFL than every other position. So if I'm Bryant Thomas Jr., I am picking LSU. You're an hour away from campus. You know, you're a quiet guy. You don't have to start right away, and you can work your way up to the top. Alabama, I don't know if I want to go to Alabama because it's the same problem you're going to have at LSU, except you're in Alabama. You're not at the home state school. So if you wanted to play the most, he would go to Texas A&M. Texas A&M doesn't have a whole lot of skill position guys. Texas A&M could sell him, hey, you're the number 1 receiver in our class. They have 2 receivers in their class, one of which is kind of like a scat slot, Kadarius Toney type. Bryant Thomas is the exact opposite. He's a 6'4" Terrace Marshall type. So if I was Bryant Thomas and I wanted to make the decision that will get me on the field the quickest, that would be Texas A&M. But the best decision is LSU. And that's not just me being LSU fan. You know, just look at the history. Look at the history. Now, Texas A&M has put their wide receivers into the NFL, and, you know, Bama speaks for itself. But still, I would go to LSU. Let's go to Roger. Roger, thank you for your super chat. If you had to predict, how do you think the safety and that third corner position will work out? Good point. Good question. So let's start with the cornerback position. And Roger, welcome to the live stream. It's ironic because we got a super chat at the exact same time about this exact question during our last live stream. And we made a joke about it. We talked about defensive backs for 20 minutes straight on our last live stream, just randomly. And you can only do that basically with an LSU live chat because I could do 3 hours on LSU's defensive backs. So, Roger, let's do this. All right. Because I want to answer your question as comprehensively as we can. So let's go with consensus. If Derek Stingley and Elias Ricks come back next season, they are unabashed, undoubted starters. So let's start with that. Let's start with that piece of knowledge, and let's work our way back. All right? If I were to pick my favorite safety out of any of the safeties currently on LSU's roster, you know, I would actually say Derek Davis Jr. I would, as a deep safety. But he is a true freshman. Now, LSU has had true freshman safeties play a lot early. Jalen Mills, he was more of a corner, but he eventually became a safety. Another true freshman safety, obviously most notable, is Grant Delpit. And Jamal Adams played a lot as a true freshman, but he didn't start like Delpit did. So I'm not going to jump the gun and just say Derek Davis Jr., even though he's an early enrollee. And I don't want Sage Ryan starting because, well, he's not an early enrollee. There's a whole lot of hype. It's better to slowly work in true freshmen, something that we've learned over the past couple of years. So at safety, I would start Todd Harris. I would. Look, Todd Harris had a rough start to the year. Got a bad rap for a guy that was fighting a nasty injury. A guy that legit knew he was going to sit the bench for a long time before he got a chance to play. Then he got a chance to play on the famous 2019 team, tore his knee up. So he's been through a lot. He's battle-tested. He's Louisiana through and through. I would start Todd Harris. And then at the other safety position is where it gets interesting. Do you start Mo Hampton? Do you start Jordan Tolles. Those are your more experienced options. Do you feel comfortable starting either one of those? So look, I will give you this answer. Todd Harris, Mo Hampton at your two safety positions, then your corners speak for itself. And then at the slot, I would probably say Cordell Flott is going to get the start early. One thing I would be very interested in, and maybe some of you would disagree with me, and Tony, we'll get to your dinner in just a second. The slot corner position, I would contemplate putting Elias Ricks at the slot corner and then putting Jay Ward or Dwight McGlothern at the outside corner position. I think that would actually be a better defense because Elias Ricks is a risk-taking playmaker. And if you put him at that slot position, well, he's a guy that is really good at reading passing lanes. He's really good at forcing havoc. He's a spicy playmaker. And then I would put Dwight McGlothern or Jay Ward on the outside. Now, some of you say Sage Ryan at the slot. I actually disagree with that. Because he's not an early enrollee, I do not want him starting day one at the slot. Now, eventually work his way into the lineup. But as we've learned in recent years, I know it's so, and we have this tendency to play the true freshmen because they're the hot commodities. They're the guys that we know the most about because they're fresh on our memory because we follow recruiting so closely. And Sage Ryan is a real deal Holyfield athlete. And of course, his family is full of LSU legends. And we know, knowing history, that 5-star Louisiana guys for LSU hit at a higher clip as 5-star out-of-state guys. And 5-star defensive backs have a near 100% hit rate for LSU. So we know it's going to be great. But just because we know it's going to be great doesn't necessarily mean starting him immediately is something that would be smart. Especially slot. We saw Cordell Flott really get confused at times in the slot. It's a hard position to play. They manipulate that position a lot. One thing you got to remember when you're playing the slot, it's not just the sprinting you have to do at the play. It's before the play as well. What was something that we saw a lot this year? Well, what Auburn would do is they would pre-snap motion their guys. And the reason why is because Auburn knew LSU was going to run a lot of man-to-man. So when you pre-snap motion these guys, you're tiring out the slot defensive back pre-snap, right? So there's a lot to learn at that position. It's not easy. Remember this. Kerry Vincent Jr., how different of a player was he at the end of 2019 compared to the beginning? At the end of 2019, he was as good as any LSU defensive back. He really was. He was dominant against Ole Miss, dominant against Texas A&M, huge against Clemson. It's a hard position. There's a lot of space you have to cover. So maybe Elias is the position at the slot. Now, yeah, Roger, it was him playing zone. So it wasn't necessarily him in the slot, but it kind of sort of was. But that's part of the reason. And Roger, you see, we're starting to connect here. I like that, Roger. And thanks for your super chat. Tony wanted to send a sticker. Homemade veggie soup with kielbasa. Is that how you say it? Cooking for dinner. Let's get it. I like that. You know what, Jason? That's a good point. Pelini screwed up Flott bad. Flott played great as a freshman. Huge drop-off last year. And look, there was a lot of people. You remember this last year? And it could just be me, but I think it was Derek Stingley's dad who said Cordell was hitting another stride. And he just really struggled. He really struggled. And, whether or not we want to admit it, him getting the targeting penalty against Florida helped LSU win the game. It was, objectively speaking, addition by subtraction. Here's my thing. If a player is struggling really bad, the best thing you can do is bench him. It's not like basketball where the term is Well, if you're a shooter and you're missing a lot, keep shooting. I actually believe in that philosophy. But in football, it's different. If you're struggling game after game, bench them. Bench them because you get to see the game from the sidelines. And ask any player that gets hurt or has to sit over at the sideline, you pick up on a lot of different things when you're on the bench. So, hopefully that answers the question about Cordell Flott. And I like Cordell Flott. I think he could be a decent player. No, I've never listened to the Mary J. Clapton. I did not. I have not. Not really much of a. Well, no, I am a music fan. Not as much as my girlfriend, though. I'll tell her to listen. So who just committed to Texas? I don't care about class of 2022 at all because LSU got the two most important players in the class already. Walker Howard and Will Campbell. Those are the two most important players LSU needed to get. Now, of course, we're months away from signing day. It would be a miracle if they didn't sign with LSU. So the class of 2022, obviously it's not done. Obviously there's going to be a lot that needs to get fixed. But Walker Howard is the best Louisiana quarterback since Ryan Perrilloux. I really do believe the hype on him. He really does pop off the screen. He looks like a Division I prospect. And this was his first year as a starter. Something else. He got to learn behind a Division I starter the year before. And it helps out throwing the football to Jack Bech a lot. But I am a big believer in the Walker Howard hype. I really do believe the hype. Now, as you guys know, I don't like to oversell quarterbacks. But, there's this big thing. Well, we got to get Arch Manning. Really? Do you have to get him? I would not want Arch Manning at LSU. I know that sounds weird. But no matter where Arch Manning's going to go, immediately, he is going to become bigger than the team he's on, right? You guys understand that? Immediately, when Arch Manning steps on a college campus, he is going to be Leonard Fournette times 10 when it comes to buzz. Do you remember the Leonard Fournette? I don't think do you remember the hype leading into Leonard Fournette? That's not good. That is not good. So, if LSU gets Arch Manning 5 years down the road, whenever it is, 2023, I would love it. But he's a Manning. I doubt he goes to LSU. He's got a lot of good teammates. I'm telling you, I'm super excited about Bo Bordelon. I'm excited about Bordelon. I'm excited about A.J. Johnson, whatever he decides to do. But you guys have to understand that. And now, look, Arch Manning is not the look at me type of guy. And he looks to be a pretty good quarterback. But if he doesn't go to LSU, you got to understand, there's going to be paparazzi. It's going to be like that. What's up, Marcus? Forgot I was doing a live today. Kirby says, I want Arch too. Well, everybody wants Arch Manning. But Walker Howard really, really pops off the page. And if he works out, you're not going to need Arch Manning. I really do believe the Walker Howard hype. I think he's a year one bench guy, year two, it's his show. It's his show. Now, could this be biased LSU me? Could be. Could be. And look, personally, I'm a huge Peyton Manning fan. I am. Even though he went to Tennessee, even though he played for the Colts and the Broncos, two teams, I don't hate or dislike. Peyton Manning was my favorite player to watch play football because he changed the quarterback position, So there's no hate to the Manning family. But the hype around Arch Manning is going to be so ridiculous. It's going to be so ridiculous. Wait, where's Ligma? Is Ligma in the chat today? Where is Ligma? Is Ligma in here? Ligma, ironically, Ligma having a crazy name. You know what, Juwan? Let's see. Marcus, where are you? Marcus, I know you're a world traveler. Okay, there's Ligma's comment. Arch can go pro right out of high school. Honestly, do you think he's that good? Do you think he's that? It was interesting because I watched a bit of the playoff game between Isidore Newman and did you guys remember this? It was Isidore Newman. Adam, you're a big high school football guy. It was Isidore Newman versus LCA. So it was Sage Ryan versus Arch Manning. Okay. But Sage Ryan didn't play, and they were playing at Isidore Newman. And ironically, it was a defensive struggle. I think LCA won 14-7 or something like that. So, it's interesting. It really is interesting. Let's see. Marcus says this field read is ahead of anyone on our roster except Brennan right now. Let's see. Are you talking about Walker or are you talking about Arch? They'll get it. Hey, Arch Manning, he's going to be the real deal. And any school that gets him, here's the thing. The heavy favorite is going to be Ole Miss, right? Because they have Lane Kiffin and then obviously Eli, whatever. But he is Cooper's son. However, you would rather him go to Tennessee. Adam, thanks for the Venmo. Oh, Alex with the Venmo. Thank you, man. Does BJ Ojolari transfer? Does your answer change after AG2 leaving? Interesting. No, I don't think BJ Ojolari is going anywhere. And I kind of hate for him that his name just kind of. I'm going to include this. Tampa, right? Are you a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan? Oh, BJ Ojolari's not going anywhere. You really think that? Okay, so tell me why. So you say that you think Carvis, what's up, man? Did you Carvis, did you watch my video from earlier? You're gonna hate me because I told you that you're gonna disagree with my video from earlier regarding 4-3 versus 3-4. And that's the thing, two of our best commenters, Marcus and Carvis, are like completely disagreeing with me on that. Let's see. But I don't think BJ Ojolari is going to transfer. I don't. I mean, this is the same thing. This is the same thing I always bring up regarding BJ Ojolari and any true freshman. Well, Carvis, watch the live stream and then go watch it later. Let's see, Cliff, I appreciate you tweeting me out. Let me retweet that. If you're a true freshman and you get and this is the thing, and I know so many of you are ready to move on from Arik Gilbert. This is what blows me away. It is so hard. It is so hard to go to any school that competes for a national championship and play as a true freshman. It is so hard. It is so hard because not only do you have to be really freaking good, not only do you have to be really good, you also have to get lucky that there isn't a guy that is staying at your position. So Arik Gilbert got to start right away on a Power 5 team with Miles Brennan, who was the highest rated quarterback in the SEC after 3 weeks. He was higher rated than Kyle Trask and Mac Jones, according to Pro Football Focus. So they were all, I know that they were top 3. And I get going to Florida where Kyle Pitts is. It just doesn't make sense. So if you're BJ Ojolari, now if you're an elite pass rusher, you're going to play anywhere. But look, you played a lot as a true freshman at LSU. You got one of those single-digit numbers. LSU, you're getting great defensive line coach. You're getting a defensive line coach from the freaking NFL who made a Pro Bowl, went to a Super Bowl. No way B.J. Ojulari would want to go somewhere else. So, yeah. BJ easily outplayed Anthony and has a higher ceiling. I won't say easily. Andre Anthony had a few games where I was like, okay, he really can play. And Andre Anthony also got a single-digit number, and he got that right before the season when Jacoby went from 3 to 7, and Andre took number 3. And I was like, Andre, you better step it up, and he stepped it up. His Arkansas game was obviously his best game. He was Defensive Player of the Week or Defensive Lineman of the Week. Andre's a good player. He's a really solid player. And Ed Orgeron brought that up in his press conference. He said, well, if I'm going to run a 4, with the personnel that I have, I want to run 4-3 because Ali Gay is a 4-3 in. I agree. Andre Anthony's a 4-3 in. I agree. I don't think the 4-3 can't work. That's never was my point. My point is that LSU likes to play really aggressively with their safeties. Okay, they like to get their safeties down into the box. That's a staple of an LSU defense, right? But when you commit so many guys to the box, it ultimately opens up the deep passing game. All right, I share clips from what Lane Kiffin did to LSU when he was with Ole Miss earlier this year, and he manipulated that a lot. And I think a lot of defenses did. So, now some of you are making some good points. Maybe we need to get better running our nickel, okay? And Marcus makes a good point as well here, and I failed to mention this in this video or in my video earlier. So much of what was said today doesn't matter. Because if you have a great offense, if LSU's offense is producing anywhere close to what it was in 2019, which in a lot of ways it was through the first couple of games, it's not going to matter what LSU is going to do defensively. It doesn't. So if Jake Peetz and DJ Mangus live up to the hype, and they are highly billed, it's going to make everyone's job a lot easier. Also, Daronte Jones, it is his first year, but this group that he has coming back is really freaking good. Okay? Now, obviously, the biggest question mark is going to be linebacker. Who's going to be the LSU linebackers? I could also make the point that that position group isn't nearly as important as defensive line and defensive backs. Last year was kind of an outlier. Last year was the first year where LSU had suboptimal linebacker play. And if you guys heard Blake Baker earlier today, he said something pretty profound. He explicitly said that the linebackers played with bad technique. Okay? Now, a lot of people would say, well, that's obvious. It's obvious that they played with bad technique. But if you do say that, what Blake Baker is insinuating is that, well, they were just coached bad. I am going to fix their technique. And I like that. I love that. And the reason why I love that is because Blake Baker is putting the pressure on himself to fix a problem that needs to get fixed. V-Law, you shouldn't be disappointed if LSU doesn't get Arch. You shouldn't be. Yeah, honestly, I'm dead serious. So many LSU fans are going to fret over that. Look, if Garrett Nussmeier or Walker Howard turn out to be what they are built to be, all it takes is one of those two guys. One of those two guys. If either one of them turn out to be what we expect them to be, you're not going to need Arch Manning. Cliff makes a good point. The linebackers played with poor gap responsibility. Why have none of the Mannings gone to LSU? Well, that's simple. I don't know why Peyton went to Tennessee, but Eli followed his dad's footsteps at Ole Miss. All right. Tony says, who do you think gets number 18 and number 7? So Tony super chatted earlier. Carvis just listed the DT D-line rotation. I like that rotation. So number 18, this going to sound crazy, but I would still let Damon Clark wear number 18. Look, he had a rough year last year. He was guessing a lot. But the sign of a number 18 is not a performance-based award, right? It goes to a good player, but it also shows a player's character. So last year, Chris Curry and Damon Clark didn't live up to the other number 18s, okay? Neither one of them were a Hester or a Dixon or a Mock or Chason, Logan, Brandon Taylor, whoever you want to mention. They weren't really good players, right? But they did play with a lot of heart. And let's be honest, I don't know if we win the Florida game if neither one of those two didn't play, because they both played. They both stuck it out. So I'm fine with Damon Clark staying with number 18. Should we have a number 18 on offense? Who would you give it to then? I wouldn't want to give it to a quarterback. I don't know. Do you give it to Coy or Jure? Actually, Jure would not be a bad number 18. Some of you are, you see, I agree with you, Leonard. Bug gets number 7. Yeah, we got to get Bug on here. I don't know where she went. I think her and Haley Haley got mad because I said she drank all my drink. I'm kidding. She's upstairs getting her makeup off after a long day of work. You know what, Mark? No one's talking about the younger Holstein brother. I heard Eli can ball the freak out. And Jai Eugene's son is class of 2023. The left-handed quarterback, Destrehan. What's good? Guys, I'm feeling good tonight. Are you guys feeling good tonight? I'm honestly feeling optimistic. So I know, I was skeptical about the 4-3 statement earlier, but people like Marcus and people like Carvis are slowly getting me to believe that this 4-3 is going to work, and this nickel is going to work. Also, and we'll get to the signing. I'll answer your signing question, Kirby, but Marcus made a good point in our last live stream. All right, I know I always point out Marcus. He is really smart. Maybe and I think this is the case more often than not in college football. It is so hard, okay? I have Popeye's chicken sandwich good. Okay. I want you to really think about this. It is so hard for any LSU player to be consistently elite for 2 seasons in a row. Okay, now really think about that. It is so hard for LSU players to have 2 seasons in the row of elite production. It is so hard. So I think what happened with Jacoby was he went through a regression that is far more common than we realize, right? So, for instance, here's a good example. Greedy Williams, his redshirt freshman year was what? Exceptional. It was really good. It was one of the best corner years at LSU. But what happened the next year? He regressed. A lot of LSU players regress more than we think. Now, part of that is because the players you play with change so much year to year. So Jacoby was playing with a brand new secondary outside of Stingley, who has very little impact on the role that he plays on the defense. He was playing with new linebackers. He was playing with new defensive linemen, and he was playing with the new defensive front. So maybe Jacoby, who is a really good player and made some decent plays this year, maybe the LSU defense would have been better off this past year without him, because there was some natural regression. It happens a lot more than we think. That doesn't mean Jacoby had a bad year. He had a fantastic Senior Bowl. He's probably going to get drafted in the 4th or 5th round.
Are they ready?
But I do think part of the problem with the 4-3 is that Jacoby is not a pure sideline-to-sideline guy. He's not. He's a sideline-to-sideline linebacker, but not a safety. And I think we saw that. So maybe this LSU defense, a big problem was Jacoby Stevens this past year.
Want to see her real quick?
You want to go Bug? Who's ready for Bug? We already got enough super chat for Bug.
Oh, but you want to go see Daddy? She's ready for her dinner.
All right. And what's out of Bug? And she is. Tony sent us a package this week, baby, and I'm kind of scared.
Why?
Because you never know with Tony. Tony's having vegetable soup tonight.
Oh, nice. She always wears number
Bug
7.
shows up in shape. Bug is in shape. Bug wears number 7. Eric, I like your typo. Let me
Miss
know.
Debbie, there she is.
There she is. Everyone's ready for Bug. All right, hold on. Let's get her. There we go.
Look
It's
at
soup.
Rosemary.
Oh, Marcus had gumbo earlier, too. I'm telling you, gumbo. God, when the weather gets
That's
cold, the gumbo is the absolute best. All right, everyone. We're going to bring Bug back in a second. We're going to let her eat her
I'm gonna
dinner.
let her eat her din-din.
Let her eat her din-din.
Come here, Mama. Come here, baby. You want your
But
salad?
obviously, if we get another, all right, let's aim for this. If we get another $50 in super chat by the end of the live stream, you'll get another Bug sighting. What's up, Bug? Bugger Nation. I like that.
Booger Nation?
What's up, Tony?
Baby, you got a fan club, Mama.
Tony Bryant, Tony Roya in here. Josh, what's good? But ultimately, I look at LSU. I look at all the talent. I do think LSU is a 10-win team again next year. I really do. I think it would be really hard to not see LSU at the very least 10-3. Leonard, you know what's funny? Her real name is Bernadette Robin, but her nickname is Booger. Why'd you nickname her Booger, baby?
I don't know.
She said, I don't know. She said, that's the thing, though. With men, we have one name for our dogs. But women, they will give dogs all different kinds of names.
Bug, Berna.
Bug, Bernie, my mama, sugar
My
number,
mama.
lucka. All these different names.
My mom, number one girl.
Mama, number one girl. Just stuff that doesn't make sense. Men, we have one name for a dog.
My mom calls her Booganator.
Booganator. Her mom calls her Booganator. It's always one name. I feel like I'm doing stand-up again. Can't
You're
I?
not.
Let's see. Bug making $50 for an appearance. No, but that's how Bug's appearances normally are. And we got some Max.
We got a
That's
Boog-
interesting. Did y'all see this earlier when
Come here, baby.
let's see. Lewis, welcome. Lewis, you had some really good comments on the video from earlier. I want to give you some. My lab was named Fatso. That's a great name of a dog.
That's what Maddie's nickname is.
Tony's dog, his name is Haley.
How does he spell her name?
Tony goes the right way, Haley.
Does she spell it H-A-L-Y?
Maxim, I am excited, but it's not NCAA football. It's college football. Y'all notice that big difference? The NCAA's name was not in the EA Sports title, which is huge. Because how does the licensing going to work?
I love that.
How is the license? I don't know. All I know, this is my one thing about it. If you haven't seen the video from earlier, I mentioned this. If Joe Burrow is not on the cover, I'm not going to buy the game. I'm not going to buy the game. Joe, no, we don't know yet.
Oh, I thought you were saying.
No, that's my point.
Oh.
Joe Burrow was tweeting earlier. So if the game went on a natural progression, Joe Burrow would have been on the cover of last year's game. Okay.
I was
But Joe Burrow needs to be on the cover. Do a split cover, him and Devonta Smith, or all the Heisman winners since then. I don't care. But Joe Burrow needs to be on the cover, or there needs to be a cover option.
I was confused, babe.
But here's the thing, Maxim. I don't want to get into the NCAA football game because it's going to get into a discussion regarding the NIL and players getting paid and player. And look, a lot of you know I'm really passionate about that debate, but most of you are here to talk about LSU football.
Come here, baby.
So a lot of you want to talk Max Johnson. What's up, Denny? Welcome to the channel, man. Like a legend edition with Joe. That'd be cool. You know what would be cool? Legend edition, half Joe Burrow, half Tyrann Mathieu on the cover. That would be really sick. That would be really sick. So, look. Did y'all see this earlier, though, with Pro Football Focus? Pro Football Focus had Max, and that's it, Max, had Miles Brennan in their top 10 players in college football. Did y'all see that earlier this year or earlier today? Or top 10 quarterbacks? Either way, it's pretty freaking impressive. Miles Brennan, top 10. So let's have a real discussion about this, right? So a lot of you want Max Johnson to be the starter, right? Because he was 2-0. The parallels between Max, or let's start with Miles Brennan. Miles Brennan started all three of the first games, right? Well, all three of those games were against the easier teams on LSU's schedule. So he put up huge numbers, but those games were track meets outside of the Vanderbilt game. They were horrible. But all three of those games, he was dominant. First game, he was shaky, held on to the football too long. But the next two games, you could not have played the quarterback position better outside of some shaky play at the goal line to win the game. But other than that, you know, Miles Brennan was dealing. That was when Arik Gilbert was, you know, finally being used correctly, and then he gets hurt. And he did the irresponsible thing, knowing that you had two true freshman backups, you go running and you don't protect yourself. Okay? On the other hand, he was 1-2 in those starts. I don't like using wins for a quarterback stat because Max Johnson, of course, was 2-0 in his starts. But there's a caveat to that. The first win versus Florida, I don't think anyone would disagree, by far the most impressive quarterback performance of the year. However, LSU, Florida was a better defense than the defenses they played in the first 3 weeks, but still, LSU averaged less than 5 yards per play versus Florida. So offensively, they weren't as good as we probably thought they were. However, there was a fog storm. However, the receivers dropped a lot of passes. And the blocking was not great against Florida. And Max Johnson was still incredible. The best throw of the season was Max Johnson's first touchdown pass in the red zone, a floated ball to the back corner to Jaray Jenkins. Now, they played Ole Miss. Ole Miss was by far the worst defense LSU played. And that's saying something because there were some bad defenses. Ole Miss's defense was horrible. The only two defenses worse than Ole Miss's defense were LSU and Vanderbilt. Were bad. And in a way, LSU's defense was better than Ole Miss. They were more explosive. And how much of Max Johnson's success versus Ole Miss was Max Johnson, and how much of it was Kayshon Boutte? It was more Kayshon than Max. If you go back and actually watch, now don't get it twisted. Max made a lot of good throws in the game. In both of his starts, the weather had an extreme change at halftime. That is really hard. Ask anyone that's played the quarterback position. When you go from playing with the dry ball to playing with the wet ball, when you go from playing with the dry ball to playing with the moist ball in the fog, it's hard. It's really hard. And on top of that, Max Johnson did not have LSU's two most talented weapons at his disposal, Terrace and Arik. Leandria, what's going on? So, those are your two battles. Both of them played bad defenses in all their starts, which is where TJ Finley comes into the equation. As Kane points out, TJ Finley played against the better defenses than either one of them.
Come on, baby. Come here.
But here's my biggest things with TJ.
There you go.
Back-breaking turnovers. He had a pick six in basically every game that he played. Had a pick six that was tackled versus South Carolina. Had a. Oh, let me help you out, babe.
I got it. I'm not going to break anything. I
You got it?
I'm not breaking anything.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I got this.
TJ throws a better ball. Max is a better athlete. Brennan is the better overall quarterback. I could live with that.
Booger's going to town.
Yeah, Chris, we talked about it. Someone super chatted about that earlier. I'm still kind of confused by it. Maybe LSU knows more than we do. Maybe Jake Peach just fell in love with that kid. I don't know. But if you were to ask me who would I want my starting quarterback to be next year, I would say Max Johnson. Right now, I would say Max Johnson. Simply because he has some running ability. Now, is that necessarily a deal breaker? No, but in order to run the football effectively out of shotgun, I think you need to have a quarterback that has some running ability. So we'll see. We'll see. I still think TJ's a part of this, though. I really do. Maybe some chatter about one of the QBs transferring for them. Yeah, Lewis, it could be the case. I think that's part of their concern, which still doesn't make sense to me, though, because you got to ask yourself this question. Does LSU see two of their quarterbacks transferring this year? No, I don't think two of the big three quarterbacks are going to transfer. So even then, you're going to have one quarterback that's going to stay. Garrett Nussmeier's not going anywhere. So, that kind of makes sense. It is just one scholarship position. I just haven't. I'm being honest. I've not watched one clip of Cole Lorde actually playing a game of football. I could see if Miles Brennan gets beat out quickly, I could see him transferring. I do. Simply because he's gone through all of this so much. But even then, I doubt it. I really do. Jawan, they weren't really in positions to where they can do that. Can any of the let me read this question I like. Can any of the quarterbacks throw an accurate deep ball or a back shoulder throw? So that is a good question, Jawan. My simple answer to that is, well, there's not many quarterbacks who could do that at all. That's the hard thing. In high school, you don't really have to throw back shoulder throws because more often than not, the safeties just aren't good in high school. And look at all these great quarterbacks. They all have great receivers they're throwing to. So a lot of them just throw bombs and they go up there and make plays. I hope so, Cliff. 35 a game. That would be nice. That would be a 10-win season for sure. I hope. So there we go. We're about an hour into this. Alex sent me another Venmo. I appreciate that. Who is the newcomer of the year next season? Good question. So when you mean newcomer, are you meaning true freshman? Alex, speak up if you can. Are you meaning true freshman or are you meaning a new starter, right? Because, I think some of us are sleeping on Dwight McGlothern just a little bit. You know, he got a little taste of action versus Florida, which is an awful matchup to start your college career. He wasn't even expected to play that game. He played okay. Dwight was trained by Prime Time. Hey, that'll help out. You know, McGlothern could surprise. Marcus, that's a good point. Bug Strong. Leonard says Mason. Yeah, I would agree with that. He's going to play a lot. The freshman that is guaranteed going to play the most next year is Peyton Todd. That is the one true freshman that is guaranteed going to play every game. Well, hopefully he doesn't play. You know, we don't want our punters playing too often. But, you know, Mason Smith is probably the odds-on favorite to play the most next season. The Jack Bech thing. We did a whole video on him earlier this week. I like Jack Bech a lot. God, that kid, his high school tape. I mean, his high school film is better than any of the other receivers. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to project to being the best receiver, but good God, he can play. He could play. Amakat, I thought about you when I did my Jack Bech video yesterday. We were talking about those mid-2000 years where LSU had no threat at tight end, and Les Miles only trained his tight ends to block. Like, can you believe that? Like, Ja'Cory Washington, Deshaun Smith, Colin Jeter, Caleb Roddy, all these, Travis Dixon, Chase Claymont, none of these guys could catch. Nick Jacobs. None of them were taught that part of tight end is being a receiver. Les Miles would never even throw it to the tight end. John David Moore, whoever you want to mention. So, Tony, you make a good point, all right? Wait, what did Kevin, of all his, Anthony Jennings. Oh, man, I didn't think we'd get an Anthony Jennings comment. You know what? As much as it is to pile on Anthony Jennings, you know, I can't pile on him too much. I can't pile on a quarterback that played for Les Miles too much. I just can't. Oh, Cody, really? I mean, Neighbors, Butte, and Smith. I don't like that starting three. I don't like starting true freshmen. I don't. I just don't. Slowly work them in. My starting three receivers would be Jure, Coy, and Kayshawn. That would be my starting three. And then at tight end, I would start Kole. And then at running back, you guys, you want to get a heated discussion on this live stream tonight. We will talk about the running backs. But it is kind of interesting that LSU is still attacking the portal to get more linebackers. Ed Orgeron has been pretty clear about that. So we'll see. I agree, Marcus. I think Butte and Coy will start, especially if Max is a guy. Spencer said, "Everyone drink water." All right, Spencer, I'll do that. Stay hydrated. That was kind of random, Spencer. AMH, I agree with that, man. Well, they already did, Chewy. They got Bug. I think also Ed Orgeron. There's a lot of good linebackers in the portal. There's a kid from USC who was a 5-star from Bishop Gorman. I can't pronounce his name. It's Palai or whatever. And then there's Mike Jones. We've done the Who joke plenty of times. We've done a video about it. What's the end game? Local Man says Max is the guy. So, look, before we move on to running backs, some of you have asked about the running backs. Max's Florida game was really good. Okay. To win that game is just nothing short of incredible. And his receivers dropped a lot, and the weather was horrible. And then the Ole Miss game, the weather was also bad. But he missed a lot of throws in the Ole Miss game. If you actually go back and watch, he did miss a lot of throws. And, you know, that doesn't mean throwing for 400 yards in a win is a bad thing. But he didn't – it wasn't – to me, and this is just how I see it, you have to be exceptional beyond reasonable doubt to be the guy. And in those two games, Max Johnson was very good. But was he exceptional beyond reasonable doubt the best quarterback? I don't think, from my perspective, that he was. Now, I would start him. That's my favorite right now to start next year for LSU. Some people say it's Miles Brennan. We honestly don't know. But based on my own evaluation, Max Johnson was extremely good against Florida, took a small step back against Ole Miss, but he was still really good. But you got to understand, in college football, your players are more replaceable. Your backups are closer to being as good as your starters in college football. They just are. It's not like the NFL or in high school. College, you have a lot of 4- and 5-star backups. So, you know, this quarterback thing changes so much because it's hard to play that position beyond reasonable doubt the best. It's hard. Pate says Max has the will to win. We need that at Bama for 60 minutes. Well, the other two guys don't. You know, I could argue TJ had the drive against Arkansas was as gutsy of a drive as you're going to see. The weather got bad. He had to throw a wet ball. His pass protection was okay, not the best. And he threw a game-winning touchdown that was overruled. And still threw a game-winning touchdown a few plays later. I think they all have championship moxie. Do any of them have an off-the-field situation we know about? No. Does any of them have a reported bad work ethic? Not that I know of. So as long as you have those two things, you have championship moxie, in my mind. Yeah, Marcus, I'm not calling it the drive, though. I'm just saying it was still an impressive drive to win a game. Yeah, and his mom posted something. You know, what can you do? Moms get emotional over their little kids. That's a good point, Cliff. I've not done one of these. There's 125 of you watching, only 50 thumbs up. But I do ultimately agree with Marcus. I do believe TJ is the number 3 guy. I do. But that doesn't mean he's not out of it. You know, look, Jake Peets views the quarterback situation way different than maybe any one of us. So we'll see. That's a good point, AMH. You still can. You still can win. But then again, you know, Mac Jones had the best offensive line. Mac Jones had the best wide receiver. He had the best running back. There's not a running back that came close to how good Najee Harris was this year. Not even Etienne at his peak this past year was as good as Najee.
I'll be done in a minute.
And so Eric is a guy that wants Nuss to start day one. And some of you think Nuss is that level. He's obviously really good. When I watch Garrett Nussmeier, and I've watched a few of his high school games, creative. He's very creative in the pocket. He loves to spin out to his left a lot to buy extra time. The good old-fashioned Russell Wilson pirouette. When backside pressure comes at you and you spin out, and he's got the arm to make any of the throws. He's 6 foot. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's just really good. And, you look at the quarterbacks that make it in the NFL now, some of them are freak athletes like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, but some of them aren't as well. Drew Brees being one of them. So you don't have to be a freak athlete to be successful. But Nuss is pretty good. He's not a year one guy. He's not going to have to play at all as a true freshman. I hope not. Hopefully we get to keep our depth and the transfer market doesn't hit, but we'll see. Let's see what did music say they got y'all? Oh, music, stop. TJ looked like he didn't care? What are you talking about? Do you have any screenshots you could send me? You got to remember, if TJ didn't care, Ed Orgeron would have not screamed at him in the face the way that he did against the Texas A&M game. Ed Orgeron would never do that to a kid that's disinterested. He would do that to a kid that he expects a lot out of. So, yeah, stop that. What's up, Huntsville? You know what, Carvis, I was trying to think of a good – Baker is a very good comparison to Nuss. Oh. AMH says, who's your Super Bowl pick? So someone asked you this earlier about a Super Bowl live stream. So if y'all want to, like we did for the championship game, and y'all had a lot of fun with that. You know what, Cody? I don't mind people talking about quarterbacks and their actual play on the field. But, body language on the sideline, I've never understood that. It never makes any sense. Carvis says, John Emery for number 7. Carvis, are you kidding me? Carvis says, John Emery, number 7. Ooh. John Emery is, I don't know what to make out of his career so far. It's kind of weird to judge his career though, right? Because look, this was my initial and Kane said the right thing here. Body language is important, but it's not if you don't have the context. It's true. Cade York, number 7. I'm actually down for that, Des. I would not mind that. Because Cade York is going to live up to the expectation. Carver, that's a good point. Jake Peets did freaking coach Christian freaking McCaffrey. So, okay. All right. This was my initial thought of John Emery coming out of high school. I thought John Emery was a really good high school player. Obviously, athletically, he's really gifted. And he did some things in the little bit of action in the 2019 season where it was like, wow, this guy does have some serious pop. Now, a lot of that was in garbage time. He did score the first touchdown versus Utah State. So he has very little, going into 2020, he had very little game experience, right? So, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, John Emery, athletically, he's amazing. Then he had the LASIK surgery in the offseason, and then that was when the hype started to build. And we were like, oh, wow, John Emery looked amazing in 2019. He had a crazy touchdown run versus Arkansas, albeit in garbage time, but still. And then we all had this idea that John Emery was going to take the next step. I thought so too. I did a full film study on all three of the backs going into the next year. In my film study, you can go back and watch it, I said John Emery and TDP were better than Chris Curry. But I said Emery has a higher ceiling than TDP, which is true. TDP has the highest floor, but a lower ceiling. John Emery has a really high ceiling, but also a really low floor. His best game this past year came against Vanderbilt. So, what do we know about John Emery? Everything has to go right for him to be successful. That is not the case with all the other great LSU running backs. A lot of the other great LSU running backs would still have good games when things weren't going in their favor. Clyde is a great example of that. Clyde didn't always have perfect blocking. Clyde didn't always have the wide open hole. He would cut back, make guys miss, make something out of nothing, always fall forward, always break tackles. John Emery, plays need to be blocked to near perfection for him to be great. Now, that's the case for most running backs, but if you're going to be a special running back, that doesn't need to be the case. So, it's one of those things. I'm concerned, but there is still that it factor that he has that could make him great. But there's a lot of the little things that Emery needs to figure out with himself, right? We need him to step up when the team needs him to step up, right? So, for instance, the Florida game was a good example. All right, he played some, but then he got hurt, and then TDP also got hurt. Obviously, you can't control that, but we really needed Emery to step in for TDP, who had a good start for that game, but he wasn't there, right? Auburn game, good example. TJ fumbles the ball. John Emery is right there to make the tackle, and he gives the Auburn defender a shoulder bump and gives up a touchdown. You got to make that tackle right there. And I know it's not what a running back's supposed to do, but it's these little things. Every time we need him to do a little thing right, it doesn't happen. That's the thing. John Emery, his Vanderbilt game was incredible. It was incredible. His touchdown run against Arkansas, like I mentioned a minute ago, incredible. But there is a difference between being incredible at your peak, but also being very good when things aren't going right. So, some of you, and we've had this discussion on live chats before. Once again, if you want to get back to the quarterback chat, if you want to talk recruiting, I know a lot of you are here to talk signing day. You can super chat and donate to the channel and help us keep producing elite content. You can super chat and we'll talk about whatever you want. You can also Venmo like Alex has done as well. And we'll talk about whatever you want. Tony, I'm glad the soup was fire. Chris Curry, fan of the channel. I don't know if Adam is still in here. Chris Curry's posted some of our clips. I appreciate that. What did y'all see this though? So Chris Curry transferred to Utah, but then another elite running back transferred to Utah as well. Blake makes a good point. We don't need a new rotation. We simply need less rotation. Interesting. Also, to be fair to John Emery, Brody Miller wrote some really good pieces. He was dealing with a lot off the field. His family had a lot of COVID issues. So, I'm obviously sensitive to that information as well. But ultimately, it comes down to what we see on the film. And, we're expecting a lot. The next year's put up or shut up time. And John Emery was running with an immobile quarterback at a shotgun, which allows defensive ends to crash, which makes it easier to get tackled. He didn't have many holes. The offensive line wasn't great. You know how I feel about that. And, okay, Bug's ready to go night-night? All right, everyone say night-night to Bug. She's ready to go night-night. Let you better go. I will pay $1,000 for an autographed Joe Burrow rookie card. Well, Michael, if they were only $1,000, I would hook you up. Everyone say night-night to Bug. She's ready to go to sleep. God, she's been running around a lot today.
Boogie says, night, everybody. Hey, Cliff. Hey. I love that he says, hey. Come on, bud. Come on.
Yeah.
You'll have to take her out one more time before you go to bed.
Yeah, I will.
She just got cold.
Got to remember, Joe Burrow's our hero, but he's everyone's hero in the card game. Justin Herbert is the hottest rookie right now. Well, obviously, Brady and Mahomes are the hottest rookies, but of the newer crop, it's Herbert and Burrow. So if you want a Joe Burrow autographed rookie card or a Justin Jefferson or a Clyde, this is the wrong time to buy it. You don't want to buy it now. This is when they're at their highest prices. Let's see. In your mouth trying to start a fight with me. Is that my ex? I'll give you these hands, son. I'm kidding. And Kane makes a good point too. All right. So let's talk about, and Kane makes a good counter as well. This was Kev Falk's first year as a running backs coach, right? And John Emery was coached by Tommy Robinson, who coaches a position probably different than Kev Falk. Wouldn't you think? Kev Falk also had a heavier rotation at running back. Jared, that's a good point. The 10,000 catches did work. Something else about the 10,000 catch thing is that, well, part of what made that so great was the players who did the 10,000 catch thing, and a lot of them did it, but LSU had a clear vision over who their starting wide receivers are going to be. And some of you have talked about the rotation of running backs a little too heavy. Here's what I would do. Okay, it is hard for an incomer at running back to beat the incumbent. That is a hard position in practice to prove you're the best, right? Because in practice, you're not really tackling anyone. At least, from a quarterback, you can read how quickly they make decisions, whether it's 7-on-7 drills or whatever. Every running back looks good in a drill running between armless pad men, if you know what I'm saying. So what I would do is in the first 3 games, legit just play Ty Davis-Price and John Emery. And if those two don't blow you away, start looking at Kevontre Bradford. Start looking at the newcomers. Start looking at Josh Williams, who, by the way, was my highest graded running back against Ole Miss. Someone wants to make a Bug rookie card? I'm down. And that's where, getting Leonard Fournette to talk to the team or Tyrann Mathieu to talk to the team might work. Tell them you got to put the work in like those guys did. You know what, Pate? That's a good point. The coaching just seems so radically different. Oh, that's true, Blake. We know Devin White could do that. It'd be nice if Devin White came back and played his final year. Still has a year of eligibility left. I hope Mickey Joseph's watching this. I enjoyed Mickey did an interview a few weeks ago, and I enjoyed him sharing his thought process behind benching Kayshon Boutte early in the year. He benched him. And it further proves my theory. If you allow a true freshman to be benched, that is the coolest thing about benching your true freshman early, is that is the first time that they are ever benched. Every true freshman that comes to LSU played their sophomores, junior, and senior year at their school. That's the interesting thing about Walker Howard, is that he never played as a sophomore. He just didn't, because Caleb Holstein was all world. He's at Louisiana Tech. But the cool thing about being benched is that it humbles you. It humbles you immediately. And that lesson in and of itself is a lesson that it's hard to teach. It is hard to teach that lesson. And that was and I'm really serious about this. That was the biggest problem with the Arik Gilbert thing, right? Mikey, it's your wife's birthday and you left to come and you're cooking her deer chili. Oh my, I'm a deer chili fan. My girlfriend does not like deer chili. God, I love a good batch of deer chili. The only good deer chili I've ever had, though, is in like a bowl the size of Montana. Mikey, I love that. What's up, Trey? Trey, you already missed Boog. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know Trey's a big Boog fan.
She went to bed, guys. She was tired.
That's funny. Adam, welcome. Don't worry, Trey. You'll see Boog this weekend.
I'm sorry. You want me to go get her?
No. Trey's fine. Elk bacon?
Oh my God.
Elk balloon knot? What the heck is an elk balloon knot?
Oh.
This just turned into the Joe Rogan podcast. Every time I turn on Joe Rogan, I haven't listened to him in probably a year. Every time he's talking about elk.
Is he really?
Yeah, he talks about elk. I've never understood. And I'm a comic. I listen to, I support any comedian's success. But it's weird that the number one podcast on the planet is a guy who interviews his guest about elk hunting.
But do we all remember when Joe Rogan was on, what was it?
Don't say anything that demonetizes me. Fear factor.
How would that demonetize you, bud?
Well, Joe Rogan's done a lot of crazy things.
But that's what he was known for.
Joe Rogan's interview with Roy Wood is one of the best interviews I've ever heard. But I'm a Roy Wood fan.
You don't get you demonetized.
I know.
How about that? Hey.
I've never had elk. Debbie, you've had elk? Debbie.
Papa's made elk before.
Debbie, me and Hey are packing up. We're bringing Bug, and we're coming to have elk at Debbie's house. And
I don't eat meat.
I know, but it was just a saying. It was a saying.
I'll eat fish, but
Where are my elk fans in here? Thanks, Mikey. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate your support. Best thing you could do is keep watching the videos. He should be involved with LSU football. I am down. Oh, man.
Little Boosie came to Elder, right?
Lil Boosie. Oh, elk burgers aren't good? The best burgers are bison burgers. If your burger meat is not made out of bison,
you're
not living your life properly.
Is this a napkin I can throw away? I'm gonna put Booger back in her spot over here.
Put it back in the
There's
spot.
Booger for you, Trey. Sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
Bison bone broth. Oh, I bet you that is
Ooh,
good.
I bet that is
I bet
good.
you that is good. Well, all right, guys. We're an hour and a half into it. Kane, I know, Kane, I'm joking. Boosie is very problematic. He is so freaking unfiltered. Is Wayne an LSU fan? I think is.
Who's problematic?
Boosie is as problematic as it comes. Okay, Jay Moore said that's a good question. We always talk recruiting here at the end. Who all can we expect to sign tomorrow? I'm actually going to give you a shocking answer. It's better that LSU doesn't get anyone to sign tomorrow that's already committed. So I want Savion Jones. Obviously, LSU really could use Chemo's signature tomorrow, and I think he will sign. So that leaves 3 slots left. If Bryant Thomas Jr., I've had someone in the building explain to me that he views Bryant Thomas Jr. as the next Terrace Marshall. I've shared that. I like to share whatever inside info I get. If they think he's that good, I don't care if LSU already has 9 receivers in the class. Yes, please. Terrace Marshall Jr. won you a national championship. So you can't say no to Bryant Thomas Jr. if he wants to come. Okay? Raesjon Davis, if he wants to go to USC, if he comes to LSU, that's great. I'm a little bit higher on LSU's linebackers than most. And if Ed Orgeron is targeting linebackers in the portal, maybe it's better if Raesjon Davis doesn't sign tomorrow. So you get the 2 signatures from Savion Jones and Chemo. That gets you at 22. So you get to leave those final 3 slots open. Now, Shay wrote something about this earlier. You should go read his site, Go 247. I read it every day, and Shay's a friend of mine. Look, he wrote something earlier about Logan Diggs, and Logan Diggs is a guy to look out for. Obviously, the running back room is crowded, but there are some rumors out there that Logan Diggs could potentially come to LSU to play linebacker. Now, we've seen how that works out in the past, where a really talented high school running back ends up coming to LSU to play linebacker. And obviously, the most notable example of that is Devin White.
Night, guys.
Night, guys. Everyone say night to hey. She and Bud going night.
Gotta get up and make that count in the morning.
So, Lewis, I just saw this. Meridian, Mississippi. We'll see you Saturday night. Keep up the awesome work. Yeah, we'll see you Saturday, man. So I've had a few of you bring up potentially doing a live stream on Sunday night. We'll address that on Saturday night. I normally just like to relax during the Super Bowl, but if you guys want to do one, I'm down. We ran out of Happy Meals. So look, if LSU doesn't sign anyone new, I know that's not sexy. I know it's not fun. 3 slots in the portal is not bad. And remember, LSU is eventually going to have to do some roster attrition down the road anyway because of the upcoming sanctions. So I'm fine with having 3 slots open in this class. If you get any of these extra playmakers, that's great. But there's no telling if that's actually going to work itself out. And remember, I view Raesjon Davis as a 5-star recruit. He was once a 5-star recruit. What do we know about 5-star recruits? Well, we've not had one work out at LSU that doesn't from out of state that doesn't play defensive back. It's just not worked out. Anybody. So, if Raesjon Davis does decide to sign with LSU, surprisingly, how much does he really want to be here? So, this would be what I would want the class to look like tomorrow. My dream day tomorrow would be Bryant Thomas signing, Savion Jones, chemo, 2 extra spots left. But there's also a piece of me that says, look, Rummel has been the go-to school for LSU. Coy Moore this past year, and then Jamar. Obviously, we don't win a national championship without that guy. So we'll see. But this is why Austin Thomas, and I'm glad Cliff pointed this out, these are ultimately decisions that Austin Thomas is going to have to make with Ed Orgeron. This is what Austin Thomas's job is as the general manager. And his interview with T-Bob was great. He did more press today. But roster management is very important. Corey, that's a good question about Trey Palmer. Trey actually played his best game of the year versus Ole Miss. I thought he was really good in that game. Did a lot of the little things right. And, part of the problem with Trey is that, he hasn't been able to develop chemistry with any one quarterback yet. And, look, he's a 4-star, 5-star elite prospect. I don't view him as a Terrace Marshall. I don't view him as a Jamar. I don't think he is an all-SEC talent, but that doesn't necessarily mean he can't be a good player. He's obviously one of the best kick returners we've ever seen at LSU. So I hope Trey sticks around. Trey's obviously someone that, is an NFL-level athlete. We'll see what happens. Trey, and Carver's makes a good point here. There's a lot of similarities to Trey and DJ Chark. One of the fastest guys on the team. Elite special teamer. And look, when DJ Chark, and we tend to forget this, DJ Chark, number 7 DJ Chark is different than number 82 DJ Chark, right? So number 82 DJ Chark was never expected to do what he did. He was just a 3-star, and he just kind of happened. He kind of had a chemistry with Danny Etling. It just kind of happened. No one expected it. Jeray Jenkins just kind of happened. No one talked about Jeray Jenkins, and nobody, not even really the coaches. It just kind of happened. So Trey is kind of the same thing here. No one's talking about it. Tony, we'll see you, man. Y'all, Tony is sending me something in the mail, and I am very worried. Trey can't, and that's the thing. So Coy Moore's really good, but he is not the athlete that Trey Palmer is. Trey is a fantastic athlete. And here's the thing. Jake might say, look, forget a tight end. We're running 4 wide receiver sets. So, Marcus, do you view Trey the same way as DJ? Do you think Trey is that level of a player? John Trey, the third guy? Here's our problem with John Trey. I don't mind experience, but how many more drops can you take, right? Four three defense. Let's go. On this coaching staff. And I do believe they're better than the coaching staff from last year. I really do. Let's see. Trey reminds me of a wingback back in the day. Traven Daronte. I like that. So, this is kind of a side note. So, as you guys know, there's some players that I like more than other LSU players when it comes to like the all-time greats. So, like for Trey Wingo, that's good. So, for instance, I'm a huge Jarvis Landry guy. Earlier I was talking about let's see, Kane. No one else thinks Orgeron pretty much running this defense is a problem. That's the thing. How much is Orgeron going to let Daronte do his thing? I hope a lot. I hope, and this would be my dream scenario. Daronte really killed it in his press conference today, and he used words that really mattered to what the problem with the LSU defense was last year, which was communication. Okay? LSU's defense is so talented that if you give up easy touchdowns, like the thing that really bothered me about the defense last year was that we gave up so many runs to the outside and we gave up so many deep passes without much resistance. Okay? The bottom line is LSU has athletic enough dudes that as long as they're in the vicinity, they're going to make a play. So we'll see. Comments today, the 4-3 base, we all have different opinions. I was fine overall with what Coach Orgeron said today. Bottom line, as long as he's recruiting top 5 national classes, as long as he stays out of the play calling, we're going to be okay. We'll see. But I want to share this. We're talking about John Emery. And you guys know the kind of people in your life that that you can trust when things don't go right. The most important people in your life are the people that can make important decisions and do things when things aren't going your way. And a good example of this was Jarvis Landry. To me, the most impressive wide receiver performance I've ever seen at LSU, take out the 2019 season because that's just different, was Jarvis Landry versus Arkansas, his final year. So he made the one-handed catch that we game-winning play. Okay? It was a play called Tsunami, right? Jarvis Landry was the one who called the play. It wasn't anyone else's play call. And he called it because Anthony Jennings was the one who had to lead the 99-yard drive because Zach Mettenberger's knee got torn up on the throw to Jarvis Landry, the one-handed throw. And ironically, it was one of my friends who was playing at Arkansas at the time who barreled into Zach Mettenberger's knee. But that's just a side note. Still, that shows you a player who is a 5-star recruit, a player who was going to the NFL. Odell didn't play. He was nicked up. Everyone else was injured. Jeremy Hill wasn't having that great of a game. The offensive line, it was a horrible Les Miles game plan. Brett Bielema had not won an SEC game. We were 25-point favorites. Jarvis Landry won that game for us when things weren't going his way. And that's part of what made Joe Burrow so great was, so many people said, well, Joe Burrow had the greatest supporting cast, and he's not going to be a good NFL quarterback because of it. But if you actually watch Joe Burrow, he made so many plays when the play did not go as designed, when everything was covered. And that was my biggest problem with LSU's team last year was, yes, the coaching wasn't the best. Ed Orgeron didn't have his best year. The player development wasn't the best. But the problem was that there were so many players who weren't doing these little plays right. And that's kind of hard to coach, but it's something that's very important. Very freaking important. Exactly. Cliff, he knew that the coverage was going to draw to him, and, the rest is history. So that's what makes people like him special. That's what makes the Joe Burrow special. Guys that make freaking plays when nothing's going your way. Those are the guys that I want on my team. And I thought about that earlier when we were talking about John Emery. It is something that you can only teach so much. It's something you either have it or you don't. And that's the thing. 247 Sports can't write about that. Rivals can't write about that about a recruit. And Jarvis had every reason to not play that game. Nowadays, players would just sit out of that game. I agree with that. Do you remember the block that Jarvis threw at Texas A&M? I don't. I really don't. Send me a photo. Do you have video of that block? I'd like to know. So I don't know when it was supposed to come out, but like a famous author about 2 years ago emailed me, and he interviewed me for a book, and he's a writer about children's education. And he read an article that I used to write for Bleacher Report. He read an article that I wrote for Bleacher Report that I wrote about Jarvis Landry. And it was about his 4.77 40-yard dash. And he legit emailed me out of nowhere, and I looked him up, and I was like, holy crap, this author has done some pretty renowned things in Canada. He's a Canadian author. And he was like, hey, I want to interview you about Jarvis Landry. And I was like, really? This is so freaking cool. I get to talk about one of my favorite LSU Tigers freaking ever. And you want to interview me about Jarvis freaking Landry? How freaking cool is that? And so I did the interview. And it was fun. It really was fun. I just couldn't believe that somebody wanted to freaking do that. It still doesn't make any sense to me, though. Why would someone want to interview me about that? What's up, John? Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know when the book came out. I had to sign a bunch of paperwork, though, to do it. That's surreal. It was so surreal. I didn't get paid anything, but I was like, wow, this is really cool. Jerry Rice ran a 4.71. What's up, Paris? Anquan Bolden was a 4.71? That's crazy. So it's a little late. We always go a little off the rails. Last week we talked about what did we talk about last week? Last week we talked about Denzel Washington movies. Bo always comes in like 3 hours late to the chat. What's going on, Bo? How's your life? So I want to ask you this question. How many of you like sports trivia? Bruce, about time you came up, Bruce. Cole Lorde. I was super chatted about Cole Lorde. I don't know anything. I just know he has no Division I offers outside of LSU. So it could be one of those things that Jake Peach I know Jake Peach and Russ Calloway were the ones that offered him. But yeah, I'm down. Cole Lorde. That's just a cool name, too. Blake, you do that? Really? What is it like to build power lines? To each other. Okay, that's a Goofy Movie joke. I'm sorry. No, Bo, he was really offered according to his Twitter. Blake, enjoy it, man. Get up early. I don't know what time zone you're in. Amacat, the Chiefs are going to blow them out. I got to go watch the Goofy Movie now that the power line is in my head. Oh, that's right, Blake. Oh, okay. So one of my really good friends from high school does that. My name under the live chat. You can see my thoughts on will be up there. Jerry Rice, Chris Carter, and I don't know who else. Fred Bolitnikoff, Steve Largent. I don't know. I don't know. Route runners. That's hard. That's a really hard thing because the hard thing about judging a route runner is that you don't see a full receiver's route on like the broadcast camera screen, right? So a lot of the things that Justin Jefferson does really well is you'd have to actually get the all 22 and see it all for yourself. You know, when I went back and watched some of the LSU 2019 footage, I'm like, good God, was Justin Jefferson the best player on this team? I mean, his routes were so crazy. Wait, Ken Griffey's not in the Hall of Fame already, is he? For you baseball fans. Ken Griffey's not in the Hall of Fame. Has he had it? Yeah, he's already had his Hall of Fame. Yeah, he's 51. He was inducted in 2016. Okay. That's a cool card. Marvin Harrison? Good question. I'm new to Discord. I don't know a whole lot about Discord, Jay Morse, to be honest. So I'm getting a lot of these questions about, would you start an LSU podcast? Would you start that's a great question. So let me ask you this. First, Jay Morse. Do you think there'll be an LSU spring game? I doubt it. Who here likes the premieres? All right, Eric, I know you're in here, and Eric watches everything. Stop bringing up that. Whose name? Who? Arik Gilbert? Randy Moss? Let's see. Oh yeah, Marvin Harrison. Okay. Who here likes the premiere? Who here likes to watch the premiere? So I used to just post the video and you watch it whenever, and you can still do that. But what I've been doing, because so much LSU breaking news has happened, I have moved the my upload time to about 5:15, 5:30. So, Leonard, you like the premieres? Eric, you like the premieres? So I'll keep doing the premieres. I don't know if I know Overtime is a big fan of the premieres because what's cool is you get the chat alongside the video. Leonard, I had salmon tonight, man. Leonard is the only person here that likes salmon more than me. Yeah, it's good to set topic. Keep it honest. Keep your podcast. Yeah. Jason, you like the live chat too? Yeah, they're good for the most part. Yeah. So, I'll keep doing the premieres. And, obviously, I haven't been able to keep a consistent upload time simply because of the news has been changing so much, right? So yeah, we'll keep doing that. But yeah, the LSU podcasting is interesting because, so many of you watch my videos, and that is essentially kind of like a podcast. So if I was to do something else, I don't want to overload you with stuff. What's up, Max? Good to see you. Yeah, King Ulysses, you told me that you were going through some work stuff until this month. So welcome, King Ulysses. I'll hang out a little bit longer. We'll go. Obviously, if you keep super chatting and Venmo, and I'll stay as long as possible. Everyone say what's up to Ulysses. We've been missing him in the live chats. And Max, we missed you tonight too. Max, did you get your card? Max, did you ever get your Danielle Hunter card? Which is ironic because Danielle Hunter not being around hurt the Vikings defense, whose secondary was coached by our new defensive coordinator. Max, let me know. I've been wondering that if you got your card. Leonard, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your salmon recommendation. My girlfriend is a salmon fanatic. That is her favorite thing. Max, you didn't get the card yet? Damn it. I just demonetized myself. Ugh. I'll send you. I do have another one. I'll just send it to you. So, Max, I didn't ship it with all the tracking and all of that yet. It could be just lost in the mail. So the trivia question was, and don't look this up. Yeah, the post office is loving your card right now. Max, I will send you another one. I don't mind sending you another one. Let's wait another week, and if you don't get it, because I sent it like 2 weeks ago, I'm pissed off now. Yeah, I know, Max. And I didn't send it priority. I did the basic envelope thing, and I never send cards that way. But I did it for you. But I don't have tracking on it. So the next one I'll send, I still put it in bubble wrap and all of that, but I'll send it with the tracking number. Send it Spirit Airlines. I love it, man. Oh, man. I feel bad for so many stand-up comics that do 20 minutes of Spirit Airlines material, and no one's going to know what anyone's talking about because no one's flown. I did watch the press conference, Paris. I did a whole video on it earlier today. I liked it. The only thing I'm concerned about is the 4-3 scheme comment, but we talked about that on the live stream. Well, Pete cost you an arm and a leg before surgery, but if I have surgery, how does that work, Ulysses? That's wild. Paris, that's fine. Whenever we're done, you could just watch it, or you could just go right now. You can go watch it. Those are my detailed thoughts on the press conference. But the bottom line is everyone killed it. When Daronte was hired, I said the one thing we know for certain is that he's going to kill the press conference. He is a well-traveled guy. He has been everywhere. Oh, so the trivia question, who is the highest earning non-quarterback player in the history of the NFL? Who is the highest earning player in the history of the NFL that did not play quarterback. I know, Leonard, I'm positive too. I'm cautiously optimistic because I don't like to be too excited about I don't want to get too excited about a press conference. Terry, I know nothing about Bo Bordelon as a player. I'm guessing he's good. You know, it's kind of hard to judge an offensive line because every offensive lineman you get is kind of a project, right? They're never a finished product. And that's the case at pretty much every position. But I'll tell you this, you put on Will Campbell's tape, that dude is murdering people on the field. I've not watched Bo Bordelon. I've not watched a second of him. Eric said Brad Wing. Marcus, that's a good guess. Adrian Peterson is the highest earning running back. It is not Todd Gurley. So Leonard's got the inside scoop on Bordelon. Marcus is right. It was Larry Fitzgerald is the highest earning non-quarterback in the history of the league. So Marcus got it. It's Larry Fitzgerald. So what's wild is there's only been until you actually go do the number crunching yourself, it is really mind-blowing how much more the NBA guys get than the NFL guys. It is unfreaking believable how much more the NBA guys get than the NFL guys. For instance, all right, so I think most of us would agree that Mark Ingram is a really good player, right? So Klay Thompson, in his 2 seasons that he is sitting out, okay, so obviously he was out all of last year with the torn ACL, out all of this year with another injury. The Warriors are still paying him $70 million to sit out these 2 years, okay? There has never been an NFL running back who has ever had career earnings over $70 million outside of Adrian Peterson. He's at $100 million. I believe every other running back is under $70 million. Career. Gordon Hayward has made $180 million in his career. Gordon Hayward, who has made 1 All-Star game, he has made more money than every position player that has ever played in the NFL. There is nothing. It is mind-blowing how much less the NFL guys make than the NBA guys. And I understand. A lot of you are going to give me the rundown here. Well, it's obviously, you have a 53-man roster. NFL players are more replaceable. And all those things are true. And I'm not disagreeing. But Ulysses shared a very interesting quote. NBA money is guaranteed. And that's part of the NBA's issue. And for those that don't know, obviously I'm really passionate about all sports. I'm rocking my Pelicans. Obviously I do. I wear the sweater a lot. The NBA's got a big issue on their hands. NBA's got a huge issue on their hands. And until they fix their regular season, people are going to continue to crap on the sport. And growing up, I loved the NBA more than I loved the NFL. And it wasn't close. It was not even close. It wasn't even remotely close how much more I loved the NBA. Like Iverson, Barkley, Jordan, Kobe, all those guys meant more to me than the Saints. I mean, the NBA was my everything. Jason Kidd, Marcus Camby. I mean, even the role guys, Starks, all these guys. But the jig was up on the NBA. The jig was up. The regular season is not the same as it once was. Okay? So it's an issue. And until the NBA figures out a way to make the regular season worth more and make it better, it's not going to get better. It's not a good league format. And this is something that's it's crazy. All right. So, when and we can have a debate about China and all the problems with the NBA, but I want to focus on, the sport itself. This was a big problem, all right, for me. So I became a huge fan of soccer in 2005 as an overseas soccer. And I wore my Liverpool jacket over this past weekend. Okay. And we could talk about Will Wade, what happened against Texas Tech. And we talked about it on Saturday. If you had an LSU ticket at +3.5, I feel awful. I feel awful for you. And if you happen to be an LSU ticket holder at +3.5 and you super chatted me tonight, I will send you your money back because I felt horrible. But look, and this is a big issue. All right. I agree, Kane. And that's a funny thing. The NBA's future is great. They're ahead of the curve in a lot of things. Sports collecting, they're ahead of the curve with this new Top Shot stuff. It's very interesting. But this is what fascinates me. The NBA's regular season is so bad, right? I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But then for its postseason, we all love the NBA postseason. I love the NBA postseason. You love the NBA postseason, right? But for its postseason, the championships are decided by playing a completely different format of basketball, right? It's a completely different format. Playing a 4-game series or a 7-game series, best 4 out of 7, that is a completely different sport than the regular season NBA. It is completely different, all right? The only similarities are the basics of basketball, but everything else changes. The game is officiated differently. You have to beat a team 4 times out of 7, which is different than beating a team just once, which is how you play the game your entire life. The only time in your basketball history, if you're a player, where your championship is determined in a series during the regular season to get their bodies ready to play the grind of a postseason. So that is the most fascinating thing. So why was this not a problem in the 80s and the 90s? Well, those guys had the mentality that I'm going to kill my opponent every single night. They were wired differently. Now that players are smarter and they understand exercise science and they understand that it's not smart to go super hard in 82 games and then play 7-game series, that's what makes what Michael Jordan did that much more impressive. Because every single night, he wanted to murder your skull in every single night. And he did. To the point where his feet would bleed. But you see, guys don't do that anymore, which is smart, okay? They know to not do that anymore. And that's the problem, okay? This is a problem. When you're playing all these games, you're playing 82 games, and they're all supposedly equal. But some guys just sit out to rest. Then what is the point of playing those games? Marcus Fizer Ulysses, I know you follow me on Twitter. Did you catch my Marcus Pfizer reference when Iowa State was getting beat down by Mississippi State this past weekend? But I'm so pissed off about my Pelicans right now. But, I have no problem with people making millions of dollars. The problem is, you pay these guys millions of dollars and they sit games out while they're healthy. And that's an optimal strategy. It is I would do the same thing. So there's so many things they have to do to make the season better for basketball fans like me, because every time I flip on an NBA game, I already know that this game doesn't mean a whole lot. The NFL regular season is completely different. Every game matters. There is a huge difference between being the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 5 seed. Everything matters. So Paris, Super Chat, your thoughts on Tommy Moffitt having a full offseason? Who made this point? Was it Carvis? Was it you that made this point, or was it Marcus that made this point over the past weekend? Jackson, what's up, dude? And Paris, I'm glad you brought this up. Tommy Moffitt not having a full offseason was huge, considering LSU was playing in a completely different defense. Your bodies have to change, and he didn't have time to transform their bodies. LSU has very expensive top-of-the-line equipment. Okay? I understand there was the photos of Miles Brennan working out from home, but LSU works out differently than a lot of schools. They don't judge you by how much weight you put up. They judge how fast you put up weight. They judge your weight based on velocity. How fast do you get the squat rack up? So the problem with that is that you can't do that at your own home. You got to do that in the LSU facility. So I'm glad you brought that up, Paris, because someone said the elephant in the room this past weekend, and I do think it was Marcus. LSU looked out of shape. LSU looked very out of shape for this season. Some players just, they were winded. And, I think Tommy Moffitt would say the same thing. He didn't get his full season. He didn't get his full offseason. This year, he's going to get a full offseason. All SEC games as well, Emma Cat. That's true. And LSU had to play back-to-back road games early, and that sucks when they weren't supposed to. And Lewis, there you go. It might have been you, Lewis, that said something about the guys being that they were not. And I'm not just comparing them to 2019, even 2018, 2017. The guys just looked a little sloppy. A lot of you guys are still talking NBA. So, Paris, I think hopefully that answers your question, man. We're talking Zion. So let me ask you this. Okay, as a Pelicans fan, my opinion's a little jaded. So I don't get the NBA League Pass, but I was at my parents' last night eating gumbo, and my dad gets it. And we watched that entire Kings game. And the Pelicans are so freaking bad down the stretch. Do you think that's a Pelicans problem, or do you think the fact that Zion is not a guard and he's not handling the ball and he's our best player, do you think that has something to do with it? Do you think it has something to do with Lonzo not being able to shoot, or BI not being confident sometime? What do y'all think? True, that's a good point, man. And I think BI is better than Zion. Yeah, Cliff, that was so bad. Connor Basilic. You know what's funny? Connor actually turned out to be a good quarterback, and Elijah Drinkowitz turned out to be a lot better of a coach. And, he's got a talented staff. His assistant offensive coordinator was the quarterback's coach for the Falcons, and he's a young guy, Bush Hamdan. Corey, what? Giannis is not a shooter. Britt, you always come in late. That's fine. It's amazing how that works, Carvis. Like, in the NBA, dude, if you can't guard anybody, you can't really be on the floor. Bledsoe is not good. Oh, okay. I see. Surround Giannis with shooters. Oh, yeah. Well, but do you think? Be honest. Be honest. Do you think Zion is like Giannis good though? Like, I know they're different players, but do you think Zion is like MVP level good? Like, look, this was interesting in the card industry. Luka Doncic's rookie cards, which are way overprinted, there's way more of them out there. They still sell for more than Steph freaking Curry. A guy that's already going in the Hall of Fame, a guy who's already a top 30 player of all time. What? Really? Luka Doncic? Luka's team is horrible. The freaking Mavs are horrible, and they have a Hall of Fame coach. It's crazy. Like, it's so hard to get one of those guys. I thought for certain the Mavs were going to be like playoff team good. Dude, they suck. They suck. Kristaps is not good. He is not good. Brooklyn, Kane, the Nets. Dude, I just can't wait till JJ Redick goes to the Nets. I think the Pelicans are going to make that happen. I do. Oh, Corey, don't say that. I don't. And I don't want to hear Zion as Julius Randle. I don't know if my emotion could handle that. And I don't know how we got on NBA chat, but you could tell I like talking all sports. Just no hockey. Let's see. Okay, Carvis. Now look, Carvis, I love you. And I know you have a lot of bold takes. But Kevin Durant winning a championship is not going to shock anybody. What? He is the clear-cut second best player of this era. Okay, it's LeBron, then Durant, right? Or is it, the past 20 years? It's probably LeBron, then Durant, right? And then it's probably LeBron, Durant. Then it's probably Wade, Steph, Chris Paul, any one of those guys. If you say the last 20 years, Kobe would be included in that, but his later years. Simeon, about time. Oh, Paris is a youngin'. Go get your homework done. The Nets will lose in the first round. Bold take. Just don't rely on James Harden in a game 7. A solid bet every single time. James Harden. The one thing I do like about the NBA playoffs is that you can attack some real market inefficiencies in the NBA playoffs for you betting nerds out there, Marcus. Okay. James Harden in game 7. You should always bet the under. The under could be 2, and I'm still betting the under. But Carvis, it would not shock anybody, not a soul, if Kevin Durant won the title, okay? I would be more shocked if Steph won the title this year. But it would not shock anybody watching this if Durant won it. That was. But here's the thing: they're not the favorites. The Lakers deservingly should be the favorites. Rely on James Harden at a buffet. Oh, Lewis, I don't know if I'd put AD there. Bron, KD, Kawhi, Giannis. Overall game, like right now, based on what we've seen so far this season, Bron, KD, Kawhi, Giannis, and I think those are the top 4. And then the 5th, I don't know. And it might be Anthony Davis. It might be. Would I rather coach LSU football or the Pels? Well, I'm a believer in Ed Orgeron. He's doing just fine. Yeah. I don't know how much better I could do. I don't think NBA coaches really matter. I really don't. I think, when Kyrie Irving says before the season begins, well, we don't view Steve Nash as a coach. We view him as what, like a cohort or whatever he said. I don't know. Oh, Jokic. Okay, yes. So, okay, that's how those would be my top 5 players. I would put Jokic over Anthony Davis. Okay, even though Anthony Davis is a better defender, I'd go Braun number 1, KD number 2, Kawhi. KD number 2, Kawhi number 3. No, I would go Braun number 1, Giannis number 2, KD number 3, Kawhi number 4, and Jokic number 5. That's true, Leonard. That not only make more money than you, but guys that could just, sit out whenever they want to. Yeah, he is. Jokic is better than Embiid. And what I would base that off of is, well, has Embiid ever won a big playoff series? Plus, Embiid, I got to worry about his injuries. And who could forget Embiid could rely heavily on LSU legend Ben Simmons. Why have they not retired Ben Simmons' number at LSU yet? Since he led us to the he didn't take us to the tournament, did he? Stop. Yeah, I wouldn't put Luka in my top 5. Going into the year, I would. But yeah, Luka can't defend anybody. Titus, I'm fine with nobody committing, to be honest, tomorrow. King Ulysses is a Nugget, man. You got to remember, he is in Denver. Let's see. Yeah, go on ahead, Britt. If you're leaving the live stream to go watch something I've already done, I'm fine with that, baby. Watch it with all your friends too, Britt. Dude, Jokic is a monster, man. Simeon, you want to talk football? Okay, we'll go back to football. I was shocked that all my viewers didn't leave whenever we started talking NBA. Corey, if he does, he's a project. Okay, the Jordan Moko kid out of Australia. A&M, you guys hate it when I say this, but God, Jimbo's done a heck of a job with that program. He has recruited better athletes, and he kills it. Bryce Foster is a real deal offensive guard. Shamar Turner is a real deal defensive lineman. Dude, they got some ball players. They got some ball players, Texas A&M. Exactly, Marcus. If y'all want to talk darts, let's talk darts. The world famous Phil the Power Taylor is the greatest dart player of all time. 17-time world champion Phil the Power Taylor. Oh my God. That is wild. Man City. Yusha's not in here tonight, but he sent me Roberto Mancini's book. He's a Lazio legend. My Lazio scarf is over there. And what's Carver's talking about now? Let's see. We did. We did. But their defensive line got a lot of pressure on us. Dude, I'm telling you, the most discouraged I've ever watched an LSU game was that Texas A&M game. Dude, what is the deal with Cam Thomas not passing? It is kind of strange. What, he's got like a 1 assist total in the last 2 games. And the funny thing about it is, like, being the passer is like the thing in fashion now, right? Like, everyone agrees that LeBron's best trait is his passing. Like, he is so much better of a pass, and he's the best at basically doing everything, but his passing is just so immaculate. They're just not a good team, man. There's not a good team. But the most discouraged I've ever watched LSU football was watching our offensive line get ragdolled by Texas A&M. And it was to the point where I was wondering if Texas A&M knew our plays. Like, they were killing us so bad. And I understand we weren't that good, but it legit, I'm serious. I legit thought our offensive line that game, and they had some good games, but I thought our offensive line game looked like McNeese. You know, it really did. We were getting tossed to the ground a lot by their defensive line, lifted off the ground and put into the turf. Okay, I can understand if we have Vanderbilt's offensive line. I can understand if our offensive line is, Maine State University. But I was like, what is happening? What is this? Like, I'm to this day, I am still shocked that what I witnessed in that game. I was like, what is happening? Leonard, you got to be careful. Carvis knows that every sport. Is Maine State even a thing? I heard Maine's got the best seafood, not Louisiana. I've never been up to Maine. Marcus, yeah, I remember you said you'd pay for my ticket to go see a Coastal Carolina game. I got to go see the turquoise turf. And then I told Ulysses I'll go up to Denver. And then Debbie earlier said she was going to make me and Haley some elk. Got to take the Power Hour LSU thing on the road. Britt, what are you talking about? Britt has the craziest comments. Just realize I'm wearing an LSU shirt. I can imagine Britt just watching this live stream and then be like, oh, look. An Old Bay fan? Hey, I'm telling you, Baltimore's got some of the best food on the planet. Jonah, that's a good question. Worst experience as an LSU fan. My lowest of the low as an LSU fan was my freshman year. I was in the student section for the 50-48 game versus Arkansas because I killed our national championship hopes until LaShawn McCoy saved our national championship hopes. That was the worst I felt because I was a freshman and I went to high school in Arkansas, and all my best friends went to school in Arkansas. And this was when I had a Nokia brick phone. And I remember going into the game, I was just talking all this trash. I was like, pig roast, McFadden's got no chance. And obviously, Darren McFadden did Darren McFadden things. And we lost in triple overtime. And I remember, I was so sad. I wasn't, I became a media member. And, whenever you become a media member, your fandom kind of dies down just a little bit. But I was still full, all-out LSU fan. I paint my face and, dress crazy. And I remember that I was the last person in Tiger Stadium. And the security at the thing, dude, I just did not want to. I was crying. I was so sad. I was one of those guys. I was just so distraught. And that was my low. That was my absolute low. And then when my Nokia brick finally got service, when I got out of the stadium, I got all these messages from my friends just talking all this trash and all this ish and BS. And that was my lowest moment. Now, Kane brings up Troy. Yeah. The 2011 BCS is going to be the most popular answer here. And yeah, Jonah, but that game didn't mean anything. And that game got Les Miles fired. So that was ultimately a good game. You remember that, Cliff? Tim Brando did sit right in front of us. Tim Brando was sitting right in front of us. So I was a media member that game, but I remember I walked to where you guys were sitting in the third quarter. Dude, and Tim Brando was fired the freak up, dude. Oh, my God. Dude, he was going crazy. But we all were. We all were. A freshman year watching. Oh, good old Jerry. Jerry tomorrow. Yeah, I know, Leonard. Well, I went to school and at LSU. I'm not currently in South Louisiana. I do miss all my family and friends down in South Louisiana. Baton Rouge is a good city. It really is. New Orleans is a good city. Opelousas. Gotta love Opelousas. I always shout out Mama's Fried Chicken. I miss Mama's Fried Chicken all the freaking time. I miss Phil's Oyster House in Baton Rouge. Phil's, oh my goodness. Cliff put me on Phil's. It's been my favorite restaurant in Baton Rouge ever since. There's a lot of things I miss about Baton Rouge. Yeah, Jonah, you should, man. Yeah, Tim's one of us, Kane, for sure. Dude, he was going nuts. But yeah, the 1912 was BS because it should have been Oklahoma State. The BCS should not, and I know it's a computer, and Alabama was, where they were, but you should not have had to, in essentially a two-team playoff, you should never have to rematch a team in a two-team playoff. That is so freaking stupid. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense because, Oklahoma State was a good team. They deserve to be there over Alabama. And I understand Oklahoma choked it out, and I get it. But still, I mean, having I'm fine with a 4-team playoff and having two teams from the same conference, but really, it never makes sense. And the bad thing about it is, so this was the craziest thing about that 2011 team is that offense wasn't really that good. It was Odell as a true freshman, Ruben Randall, D'Angelo Peterson, and, the running backs were Michael Ford, Spencer Ware, and who else? Who were the other running backs? They had a few. The key to that team, their offensive line was so good. Will Blackwell in that group was such a good group. And Tyrann Mathieu was just that good. Tyrann Mathieu was their best offensive player because every single game he would do something mind-blowing. And the funny thing about it is that 2011 team is, to this day, the greatest team to not win the national championship. And, the 2 out-of-conference wins that they had were against teams that had blowout victories in BCS bowls. I mean, they beat down Oregon, and they beat West Virginia handily. And those teams won BCS bowls. And LSU won every game by double digits outside of the Alabama game. And I could argue pre-2020 that the 2011 Saban team was their best team. That was a case where there were 2 teams that were so superior to everyone else, Bama and LSU. The funny thing about that is LSU would have matched up really well with Oklahoma State. And no matter how much Oklahoma State fans want to play it up, that would have been a horrible matchup for them because the strength of their team was Justin Blackmon and their receivers on the outside. What was the strength of the LSU team? The secondary. That would have been a horrible matchup for Oklahoma State, and LSU probably would have won that game by 2 touchdowns. So, and I know it's a theoretical, it's a hypothetical. And I know I'm biased LSU guy, but it's true. Go look at how those rosters matched up. What Oklahoma State did well is exactly what LSU did well. Alabama was a bad matchup for LSU because they were a ground and pound team. And, LSU, their best defenses were when they had 6 defensive backs on the field, their Mustang package. So, that was the only team that could have beaten LSU that year. The only team. And they had to do so in a rematch after said LSU team beat them in their house. So even though Bama had the more impressive and more triumphant victory, the more impressive win to me was going to their house. And I know a lot of people will say, well, the game was in New Orleans. If you were in the building, you knew that there was a crap ton of Bama fans in there. Go to the game in Tuscaloosa, there was hardly any LSU fans in the building. You should never have to play a team again that you beat in their house already. Marcus makes a good point. We had 12. Lyle Collins couldn't see the field on that 2011. And that offense was good. Not many people could, Jared. I mean, those tickets were outrageous. Because look, everything we said about the 2019 team, the same thing was true with the 2011 team. The 2011 team, just because we didn't have the firework offense and we didn't have, outside of Tyrann, we didn't have a supernova star like we have with Joe Burrow and Clyde. That in theory was a better team. That was a team. I mean, that was a loaded group of guys. I think Brandon Taylor was the leading tackler. So this is where I disagree with you, Marcus. It matters more how you play when you know it's for all the marbles. And I agree to a certain extent, but the first game was for all the marbles too. I mean, that game in particular, I remember. So there was a bye week, and, as a student, I was getting a lot of media appearances, and, I remember there had never been buildup for a regular season game. Robert Kraft was there. LeBron and D. Wade were there. I mean, that was a supernova event. And I agree, the one that Bama won counted more. And Les Miles is forever hated by his roster that he didn't make any changes going into that game, to the point where players have gone on to do media appearances to speak out against Les. You know, but still, you know, you got to remember, going into that game, if LSU had won that rematch against Bama, they would have been the greatest team of all time. And they would have been debating between the 2019 team, because the 2011 team had more substantial, they had more double-digit victories than the 2019 team, which is kind of crazy to think about in hindsight. I'll never understand it. I'll never understand him not going to Jarrett Lee. I'll never understand it. It didn't make any sense. And what's weird, for those that watched our tight end piece earlier this week, you know, when I was a student, I had a blog. It was called Hard Knock Tigers. And, you know, I would do these film studies. I would do these really deep film studies. And Jordan Jefferson was just missing receivers. And Bama played the same freaking defense. And Courtney Upshaw explained this to me before and after the game. And Courtney's a really interesting guy, played in the NFL a few years. He said all they were going to do is not loose contain. They were going to mush rush Jordan Jefferson, which, in other words, they weren't going to rush him. They were going to sit in the passing lane and not let him scramble, make him have to read a defense. That was exactly their strategy. And then Greg McElroy, well, he wasn't the quarterback. Who was the quarterback? Anyway, or was he the quarterback? I don't remember. But a Bama offensive player told me something that was very interesting after the game. Part of the game plan was to not throw the football to Morris Claiborne's side. They said, don't do that, because he had nearly a pick six in the game earlier in the year. So Bama's game plan was not sophisticated. In fact, that was probably the most simple game plan that they ever had. They legit played two deep safety and they made Jordan Jefferson try to make decisions. And it worked. It was the greatest defensive performance ever. It really was. And they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing. They didn't blitz. And if you go back to the actual game itself back in 2011, Nick Saban cost Trent Richardson the Heisman Trophy that year. So Robert Griffin III was the Heisman winner. And Trent Richardson started to get a groove going in the third quarter, and we just couldn't stop him. We were throwing everything. We put in Ego Ferguson. We put in all these defensive linemen, and, you know, we couldn't stop it. But if you remember, Nick Saban called a timeout to set up the trick play, and it worked had it not been for Eric Reed making the most incredible defensive play we've probably ever seen, ripping the football in midair out of a tight end's hands at the 1 yard line. And if he doesn't make that play, we probably lose that game. But, you know, I still get chills thinking about it. I was on the sideline when he made that interception, and I was like, what? How did he do that? I was right there. And I remember I was like, oh my God, Bama just had a huge completion. And then they were saying LSU got the ball. And I was standing on the sideline where Patrick Peterson was robbed of the interception. I was like, wait, we're actually getting a call here? We're just 2 years ago? Are they making up for that call from a few years ago? It's crazy. Jefferson was the starting QB, but, you know, King Ulysses, I don't ever even know what to make of the Russell Shepard. I bought his autographed rookie card for $10 recently. I think it was 13, and I love it. I don't know if Russell Shepard ever wanted to play quarterback. I know, Leonard, I was so lucky. I remember for that game meeting Robert Kraft, and it's so weird when you meet a billionaire because I really do believe this. I think billionaires have a tough time looking at us regular people. I really do. When you have that much money, I really do think it thwarts your sense of reality. So we are 2 hours and 47 into this. Yeah, I want to know a crazy. So this is a deep thought, okay? And you guys are 2.5 hours in it with the. One thing that pisses me off about the NFL this year. So, a lot of you aren't Falcons fans. I'm a Saints fan, so I'm not really a Falcons fan. But they have played a lot of guys from LSU, so I kind of like them. So y'all did y'all see Russell Gage this year? So Russell Gage is so freaking crazy good, right? As a wide receiver. But this year, Russell Gage threw the 2 most beautiful throws you will ever see, right? Did you guys see this? So Russell Gage threw a touchdown pass to Julio Jones versus the Dallas Cowboys. And Julio, this has always been the strangest thing about his career. He will drop those passes, right? So let me pull this up just to make sure that I get this right. All right. So Russell Gage, these throws were freaking ridiculous. So he had one versus, and then he had one that was actually caught, right? Now let's go here. Now let's pull up this. So he threw not one. I was in New Orleans at a bar hitting on a bartender I knew at the time. Were you successful, Ulysses? I'm kidding. Okay, so you do know Russell Gage was at LSU during the Anthony Jennings and Brandon Harris years, right? So Russell Gage and Brandon Harris and Anthony Jennings were awful. They were objectively bad, okay? They didn't get the best coaching. I'll defend them on that. But they were bad, right? But what we know about Russell Gage's throwing ability, okay, we have a decent sample now that Russell Gage can throw legit bombs, like on the money. I just wish I could have seen Russell Gage at quarterback at LSU. There you go, Ulysses. Congratulations. That's why T-Pain Tiny Desk concert. T-Pain, the coolest celebrity I've ever met, by far. But look, Russell Gage, knowing that he throws legit one of the most beautiful balls in the NFL, he threw 2 passes in the NFL this year that were more beautiful passes than anything Anthony Jennings or Brandon Harris ever did. So why didn't we try Russell Gage at quarterback? Why? That would have been very interesting, right? Russell Gage at quarterback? Could you imagine him? And it would have worked. Do you know how many great NFL wide receivers were quarterbacks in college. It's kind of weird. We forget that Hines Ward was like a decent SEC quarterback at Georgia. But that's kept me up at night. Okay. Julian Edelman, that's a good point. Knowing Russell Gage can throw a ball like that. I met T-Bob and Vince Vaughn going into the SEC championship. Who are you more excited to meet, Jared? I like old T-Bob. Me and him used to do a podcast together, and if you go back and listen to those recordings, I can't believe they're still up. They're still up. Our recordings got so freaking weird. Joshua Cribbs, that's right. Jared, you were more excited to meet T-Bob than Vince Vaughn. I'll let him know. Which was like 2 years ago. But yeah, it makes me wonder, how would Russell Gage have been as a college quarterback? What's up, Carl the Cat? Oh, Eddie Kinnison? Yeah, Eddie Kinnison was a monster. Yeah, but that's the thing, Kane, is like John Trey, we have good quarterbacks when John Trey's been here. Right? So when Brandon Harris and Anthony Jennings, I know these guys are like just hanging out. Russell Gage, I'm sure he threw a few passes during practice at LSU. It would have just been interesting to see that. That would have been, how crazy would that have been if we could have just seen it at least one time? Eddie Kinnison, current LSU staffer Eddie Kinnison. Carl the Cat. LSU baseball's looking good, huh, Carl? Is LSU baseball supposed to be good this year? I got my Paul Manieri thing. They got Hill back on the mound. Is 4.2 world-class speed? What do the 100-yard... I'm interested to know what the 100-meter dashers in the Olympics, what their 40-yard dash times would be. Because, world-class speed, like, I mean, if you're saying someone is world-class speed, that means they could get close to qualifying for the Olympics. That's true, Marcus. I agree. I'll give you that. It'd be interesting if the 40-yard dash became an Olympic event. I think it should. I just learned that Marcus Randall is a high school football coach at Woodlawn. I did not know that. I'm dead serious. I did not know Marcus Randall was that. I just looked on Twitter and that was just there. Eric, for a second, you said Matthew Bowling. I thought you said Matthew Langlois, and I was like, if he's that fast, watch out. Bo Jackson ran a 3.91. Now, I don't know about that. What was it? Roy Williams said that Michael Jordan ran a 4.1 on their clock. Now, a 3.91 is just insanity. That would be like something Usain Bolt. Yeah, when Green for the Washington football team. Oh, really? So that would be a 4.17. So what is Tyreek Hill's 40-yard dash? What is 4.29? And McCole Hardman is 4.33. So Eddie Kinnison was faster than Tyreek Hill? Kinnison was, oh, so they were the same speed. That's wild. That's stupid. That's crazy. Coach Smith, I don't know. There's rumors he's not even signing tomorrow. Prime's 40-yard dash. My favorite Deion Sanders story was when, the New York Giants were drafting 10th, I think, and they asked Deion Sanders to come in for an interview. And, as a college prospect, you just go to every interview. And Deion just called him and said, Deion said, I'm not lasting until 10, so this is not worth my time. I said, that is still the coolest thing I've ever seen. You know what, Carl? I did something different tonight. I ate before the live stream, so I had some salmon. And Lorde knows my love for salmon. I haven't had a good steak in a while, though, but I love salmon. My girlfriend makes a mean salmon. Well, all right, guys. Let me put my headphones back on. It's kind of weird not doing this with this. Let's see. Leonard, you ran a 4.1? That's good, man. That's a good 20-yard dash time for you, Leonard. Oh, man. I want to know something wild. My 40 was so bad that my soccer coach, my freshman year, walked up to me and said, you're too slow to play. It's not even worth you trying. And that was the greatest piece of motivation that was ever given to me. And I'm still friends with my soccer coach to this day. But, dude, could you imagine being in 9th grade and your soccer coach walking up to you and just saying, you can't play this sport. You're just too slow. You're way too slow. 4.22. That's wild. But the thing about Usain Bolt is, you look at all his famous 100-meter times. It's kind of like this. When you watch him run, it's kind of like watching Randy Moss run. They run so effortlessly that it doesn't look like they're trying. It was kind of the same way when you watch Vince Young playing football. When Vince Young ran, it looked as if he wasn't running fast. It looked as if he wasn't going at full speed, but he made the quarterback position so effortless. And knowing what we know now about Vince Young, he was just such a different athlete than everyone else. The book's out. Vince Young struggled to read. And I know this from a personal experience. He really struggled, and he was just such a sublime athlete that it didn't matter. Like, he could he could do things. If you ever go back and watch Vince Young's highlights, it looked as if he was playing slow, but he was moving faster than everyone else at the same time. It is so mind-blowing to watch him play football. He was so crazy. And I don't like to call him, I'm not calling him stupid. I just know he just could not, he struggled to read. And, knowing that, knowing how important it is, to consume playbook material and all that, it's crazy that even in the NFL, Vince Young was a decent NFL starting quarterback, and it's mind blowing. I'll share my Vince Young story one night. I won't share it now, but long story short, I know someone that wrote for him, that wrote a speech for him, and he could not read the speech, and it was really simple. I saw it, and I was like, wow, and that made me even more impressed. But, Vince Young, to this day, the two best quarterbacks I saw to never win the Heisman was Vince Young and Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun was something else, man. That's a guy who, man, as a college quarterback, and even now as an NFL quarterback, he is just good at everything. And, I kind of hope he doesn't go to the 49ers. More stories that are great. No, I wasn't trying. I'm dead serious. Vince Young, I wish I wish it worked out better for him in the NFL, but he is still the best college quarterback I've ever seen to not win the Heisman. And Deshaun is probably the close second. Yeah, Peyton didn't win the Heisman, but, I still think Vince Young was a better college quarterback. I do not keep up with Nickel State. Oh, Cliff, why'd you take the under? JJ, what'd it do? JJ, are you in the hospital tonight, man? JJ is a nurse. What's out of JJ? But, when Vince Young was reading out, he was supposed to read out a pick for the Tennessee Titans 2 years ago. His name was Harold Landry. It said Harold Landry on the card, and he said Arnold Landry. And, I felt bad for him. Everyone was making fun of him and laughing. I really felt so bad for Vince because, some people just can't do it. And, that's just more power to how great of an athlete he was. I know, Kane. And I didn't, I was really trying to say a compliment while, in hindsight, it is kind of putting him down. So, Vince, if you're watching this, I really am sorry. And he was just hired by the Texas administration to work with the athletic director. So good for him. JJ, you're in the ER, slap full of people. Well, there you go, JJ. I was getting ready to sign off, but if you're on break, I'll hang out for a little bit longer. We are talking our favorite college quarterbacks right now. I hope you're enjoying your break, JJ. I grew up in a family of doctors and nurses, so JJ's in Shreveport. So JJ, thank you. We got a lot of people that do important stuff in here. That's cool. That's cool, man. JJ, my favorite. Okay, I'll put it this way: my favorite college quarterback pre-Joe Burrow was Deshaun Watson. Now, Vince Young was better to me than Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson was my favorite college quarterback to watch ever. The way he read defenses, the way he connected with his receivers, putting Clemson on his back. And remember, something else about Deshaun that was crazy was, he had to follow Taj Boyd, who was ridiculous. Taj Boyd was ridiculous. Now he had Sammy Watkins and Nuke Hopkins, but still, Deshaun Watson, to this day, one of my favorite quarterbacks ever. I get chills thinking about him. He's just great. He was good when everything went his way, and he was good when things didn't go his way. And, Deshaun didn't have the best upbringing, and Warrick Dunn was, the philanthropist he is. One of the houses that Warrick Dunn built through his foundation housed Deshaun and his family. Charlie Ward. That was a little pre my time. Yesterday, I got accepted into the PhD program at UCF. Carvis, congratulations, man. Joining Randy Shannon down there. That's good stuff. Congrats, Carvis. I appreciate you, man. I really do. I appreciate you supporting this channel, providing your football insight. I really do mean it, man. You are a sharp football mind. And a talented dude, man. You work out. You're getting your workout in earlier. That's good. I run like 2 or 3 times a week. So, Carvis, what is your normal workout routine? Are you just a weights guy? Are you a cardio guy? And what are you going to be studying? Do you have sociology? God, that is so interesting. Dr. Carvis, that just rolls off the tongue well. That's cool stuff. Micah, originally from Conway, Arkansas. Hey, that's a few hours north of where I grew up. Your grandpa went to LSU with Y.A. Tittle. Now, that's legendary. Welcome to the channel, Micah. We appreciate you, man. We love all the Arkansas Tigers. James is not here from Little Rock. JJ and Carvis laying it on heavy 3 hours in. JJ, please stay safe. I know you're probably watching hooked up to some headphones right now. That's good. So that's crazy. Social science. That's interesting, man. Especially, there's it's kind of weird because, everything that's happened in this past year is going to rewrite every history book. And, it's crazy. But for real, congratulations. Nutritionist for a nonprofit working with Head Start program kids. 6 days a week. The first part is interesting, but the second part, 6 days a week. Can we call him? You want to call him Dr. Carvis? You want to call him Doc? That's crazy, Carvis. Good, man. Good on you. Good on you. Kane is in PA. That's cool, man. JJ, what time do you get off? Which is always kind of a weird question that you think of it. Let's see. Well, not yet. All right. Well, you let us know when it's time to call you doctor. What we will do when Carvis is done with this PhD, which is going to be 12 years from now. Kidding. I know those programs could take forever. So how long is that program? 6 a.m.? What, JJ? 6 a.m.? That is wild. That is so wild, JJ. 6 a.m. I don't think I could do that. Well, I know I couldn't do that. That is wild. That's cool, Carvis. Yeah, New Orleans is great, man. Your night shift or doing a 24? So, Carvis, when you go to the gym 6 days a week, are you lifting weights? Are you doing cardio? What are you doing? Are you just doing bicep curls, squats, back raises? Or Or do you go to the swimming pool and do the workouts in the pool? King Ulysses. Yeah, I'm talking to the microphone guy. King Ulysses, you were the one that pointed out that when we heat stuff up in the microwave, it affects your Wi-Fi. That's good stuff, man. Long row, but I'm chopping away. That's good stuff, JJ. Carvis does leg day 6 days a week. There we go. I like that. Can't skip leg day. Did y'all see that photo that the Senior Bowl posted this week about they posted a photo of Najee Harris, and they said Najee Harris never skips leg day, and his quads were legit the size of the Strait of Gibraltar. I mean, that thing was, his quads were huge. Najee's like one of those athletes. You're just like, God, they made human beings like that. Cool stuff. Well, all right, guys. I don't mind hanging out for a little bit longer. Are there any more questions? Courtside Karen skips leg day. That was wild. Are there any more questions that you guys would like to be answered? Any more questions? Elijah Holyfield. Is that the running back at UL? No, that's Elijah McGuire. How'd y'all like USA new stadium? I don't. Elijah Holyfield at UGA. I was thinking Elijah McGuire. I was like, wait, we're doing some Raging Cajun talk? I know nothing about the Cajuns. I did see, though, that the Cajuns returned the most recruiting talent. Ryan Nielsen interviewed today for the Packers defensive coordinator vacancy. Ooh, interesting. Dang, Carvis. That's good stuff, man. So I run 2 or 3 days a week, and normally my runs are anywhere from like 3 to 6 miles, somewhere around there. Cole Lorde, Ulysses, I don't know a whole lot about him. I know he was only been offered by like Ivy League programs. I don't know. Does LSU feel uncomfortable about the quarterback room? Do they know something about a quarterback transferring? I don't know. Jawan, wake up, man. JJ is in the ER, and I'm hanging out for a little bit longer. Jawan said, look, I had some red beans and rice earlier in the night, and they knocked me out. And Jawan, I don't know what you had for dinner, but yeah, that's a good point, Marcus. Because look, if LSU really wanted Ryan Nielsen, they could have paid the Saints a number that they could have said no to. Okay? There's nothing Sean Payton can do that could prevent Ryan Nielsen from being a DC somewhere else. At some point, someone's always willing to pay the buyout. Someone's always willing to pay the buyout. And, you know, someone accused me of this, I think a week or two ago, that said, Carter, you said that money was going to play an issue in this hiring search. And I was like, well, it did. It absolutely did. Okay? If LSU absolutely had to have Ryan Nielsen and they offered a certain amount of money to the Saints, they would have said, let's do it. Let's do it. Lewis, it's a little early to tell, but UCLA actually returns their most talented roster in quite some time. And I know we do too, but UCLA, this is their year. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. I do have to use the bathroom really bad, so I'm going to go through a few of these really quickly. UCLA, that's going to be a tough game. Probably a 7-point game, but I think we win. Has the early signing period killed National Signing Day? It has, and I hate it. I absolutely hate the early signing period. I think they should get rid of it. I really do. Okay. The Senior Bowl was at the old Raggets. Oh, okay. Anyway, the early signing period. I do. There's a whole lot of things I would change about college football scholarships that could help out the little guy. One thing I would do is get rid of the early signing period. I really do. Number one, what happened with Tristan Lee just cannot happen again. That would not be good. Now, obviously, a lot of you would say, what Carver's is saying now, well, get the players signed quicker. But things like what happened with Tristan Lee and what happened. Number two, the early signing period legit happens the last week of the year. Now, this season was pushed back, so I'm wrong about that. But still, the early signing period happens during bowl season. So while you're coaching your actual team, you're having to also recruit guys and sign them early. Also, these college kids have to make a life-changing decision quicker than what they normally would have to make, which then gives more power to the universities because guess what? They could fire coaches directly after. That's exactly what Texas did. So the kids lose a lot of leverage. LSU gained some very needed leverage because they fired Bo Pelini after the early period. So I'm not a fan of the early signing period because it takes power away from the players. Whenever they do sign, they lose all of it. Exactly. That's how I view it too, Marcus. That's how I view it too. So one way we can prevent this is pushing everyone signing until February. Because one thing we tend to forget is that the early signing period interrupts a high school football season as well. So these kids are worrying about where they're going to sign and getting all that stuff together when their focus should be on their current high school teams. Yeah, Lewis, but I hate the committing, decommitting stuff too. I really do. But these are 16 and 17-year-old kids. It makes no sense to me to commit early unless I'm a 3-star and I get an LSU offer and I really want to go. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So, yeah. And I know that's a juicy topic to end on, but we will end it there. So tomorrow we will have some version of a signing day recap video. We will do a live stream on Saturday night, as we always do. And we will determine on Saturday night if we will do a Super Bowl live stream for Sunday. So, JJ, thanks for all your hard work in the hospital. Carvis, congratulations on the UCF news. You hit us with it in the final few minutes. That's so great, man. I really do want all of you to flourish because all of you have supported me in this channel and this journey we're on. So if you haven't seen our video, there's a lot of disagreement on my thoughts on the press conference from earlier. You can watch it down below. All right. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Woo. Jared, that's funny. The Power Hour. Oreo time. Let's go.